What's going on, Lions fans? Welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast, your home for all the latest and greatest Detroit Lions news, updates, analysis, and so much more. In today's episode, we are going to be recapping the entire 2026 NFL draft haul that the Lions had this past weekend. The Lions made a number of key additions to this roster, and we're going to go through all 7 picks, or all 7 rounds. I can't remember exactly how many picks they had because that's how long this weekend was, and I just kind of started to tune everything out after a while. I'm your host, Miko. You can find me over at Twitter at the Miko Scott, joined by my amazing co-host. First and foremost, we have your senior editor over at prideofdetroit.com, Ryan Matthews at Ryan_POD. Ryan, how are you feeling this wonderful Monday?
We don't have to look at any more prospects that we don't need to. We don't have to do a mock draft. We don't have to continue to just ramble on and on and on. We have actual Lions stuff to talk about. So I'm pretty pumped. How are you doing, man?
I'm pretty good, man. I'm gonna make a confession here. I've already looked at one way too early mock draft just because I was just like, not because I wanted to know who was gonna get pick who. I just wanted to know like where did they think the Lions were gonna fall, and I actually felt pretty good about where they had them in this mock draft. So that's at least something. That's as much as I'm going to jump into another mock draft at this point. Also joining us today is your editor-in-chief over at prideofdetroit.com and Lions beat writer Jeremy Reisman at Detroit Online. Jeremy, how are you feeling?
I'm honestly really good. I'm usually a lot more tired than I am at this point on Monday after a draft, but have to thank old Brad Holmes for calling it quits early on day 2 so that we could all go home a little bit earlier than expected. And yeah, got in a couple nights of rest on Saturday and Sunday night, and been grinding tape since. And I'm excited to talk about the new draft class here.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to take away from this draft class. I think there's a number of opinions that we can have about a number of these picks, but I think overall, when looking at this draft class, I think there's a lot to really like about what the Lions did. And I think it all starts with their first overall pick that they made at pick 17, with the Lions going with offensive tackle Blake Miller out of Clemson. Jeremy, I'm going to start with you. Just overall reaction and opinion of this pick that the Lions made.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really throw my hat too much into the like Monroe Freeling versus Blake Miller debate that was happening kind of towards the end when it looked like those were the two guys that might be available, and turned out were available. So I kind of took it as like, okay, yeah, if that's your guy, that's your guy. And the more I think about it, the more I like it, which tends to happen every time after a draft because you talk yourself into these picks a little bit. But at the same time, we're talking about a team in its Super Bowl window. We're talking about a team that likes to run the football. We're talking about a team that doesn't want their offensive line to take a step back. In fact, they needed to take a big step forward. And so going with a guy with 54 career starts, that's kind of the most pro-ready guy probably in this class of offensive tackles, I get it. I'm fully on board. And now that I've watched a couple games of tape on him, I'm even more on board. The guy is absolutely a finisher. I understand why everyone keeps using that word for him. I watched his game against Boston College, and he just put like guy after guy into the ground. I'm almost certain like that Thursday night, right before he went into the draft room, Brad Holmes grinded that BC tape and was like, Blake Miller, no matter what. Like that's what's going on. And then on top of that, I was actually very proud in a way that I'm acting like his dad. Like I'm a little proud that Brad avoided the temptation of trading up, because in a lot of ways, I'm sure the temptation was tough there, right? We saw some tackles go off the board, I think at 9, 10, and 12. He was thinking about trading up. He said, we were looking, and now there's this report out here. The Ravens GM is like, we had a team that was willing to trade up for us at what, 13 or 14? Where were they?
13,
like 14.
Or 14. They were at 14.
They were offering a 4th rounder this year and a 4th rounder next year, and I'm like, that's an interesting. And he's like, it's still and we trade back still into the teens, and we had 3 guys who were still interested. So trading down 3 spots for a team that it's giving 2 fourths. Why would a team give 2 fourths? They must not have a third. Like, it's like I'm putting the pieces together, and I'm like, I'm glad he avoided the temptation there. I'm glad they kept their extra draft capital there, didn't dig into 2027, and I'm very happy with the pick overall. Very, very much happy.
Ryan, what about you? What was your overall takeaway from the Blake Miller pick?
Yeah, the night before the draft, I came up with a list of like 4 offensive linemen that I would love at 17, and I said that the Lions could ace the draft if they get one of these 4 guys. They don't have to move up to get them, and it was Vega, it was Spencer Fano, it was Monroe Freeling, or Blake Miller. If it was one of those 4 guys, I felt really confident that the Lions got their guy. And I think they got their guy. I think that Blake Miller was their guy. Like I take Brad Holmes at his word that Blake Miller was his guy. I don't know. I still cannot believe that in this fortress of solitude that they had all pre-draft process where we didn't know much about the top 30 visits. There was no local pro day, that everybody and their mother knew that Caden Proctor was not going to get past the Detroit Lions. Like I just can't believe it. I can't believe it for the life of me. So I think Blake Miller was their guy. I'm super happy that Blake Miller was their guy. I think that let me know if you guys believe this or not, but I think that if Blake Miller had played since his freshman season, his true freshman season at Clemson, and was the starting left tackle for 54 starts and missed no games, and had the athletic profile that he has, the 17th most athletic tackle since 1987. We're talking about almost like 40 years worth of data. That guy isn't a top 10 pick. Like I think the right tackle stuff, maybe it wasn't valuable enough for other teams, or we're gonna be interested in, the Caden Proctor who had played left tackle, or we're gonna be interested in the Fano who has the positional versatility to maybe play any position along the offensive line. Francis Maui, no, like Vega was a really safe pick at guard. I think that maybe those guys were picked ahead of Blake Miller, and some of it had to do with the positional rigidity of him being a right tackle.
I tend to agree with you. I also think, though, it's one of the things, like Jeremy, you talk about commending Brad for not trading up. I commend him for not trading back in that situation and not playing the game of, well, we could probably, get some draft capital and still get this guy maybe in the early 20s, because as much as there was a run before Blake Miller was picked, there was a pretty significant run after Blake Miller was picked as well. And I don't know if the Lions had, kind of had that type of gamble, if you would have had the same chance of getting a guy like that. Because Ryan, you talk about, his accolades and his resume at right tackle. I have a hard time believing that another team wouldn't have looked at that and been like, yeah, we'll take a chance on that guy because that guy's been healthy. That guy has been productive. That guy has continued to improve season after season. And even if he is a right tackle, who the hell is to say that we can't get him into camp and see if he can play left tackle and maybe even look at making him make the switch. So once again, I think there's a level of kudos that needs to go to this regime on doing something that they've always done, which is when they have their guy in their sights, they don't play around. They go ahead and they just take their guy regardless of what other people might think that they need to do.
Yeah, and the whole like right tackle, left tackle thing is even more funny when you hear the story of why he played right tackle at college, which was he was a left tackle in high school. He went to Clemson and like they were just running reps, and he's like looking at the left tackle line and looking at the right tackle line. He's like, well, the right tackle line is shorter. I want to get in, so that's where I'm going to go. And that's where he ended up playing for the next 4 years. Yeah, I think in a pinch, like he could absolutely play left tackle. Now, obviously playing as many snaps and as many games as he did at right tackle, it's going to take a little bit of adjustment and relearning the steps in reverse order, essentially. But to me, I don't know. I watched the tape of the guy. He looks so smooth and relaxed and pass pro. He can reach a little bit much in the run game, but he's so hungry out there in terms of, just finding someone to block, and the athleticism pops off the tape too. In a lot of ways in which when I first started watching Panay's tape, where they're like running plays designed to get Panay out in space, they were kind of doing the same thing with Blake Miller. And to be clear, I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying Blake Miller is just going to be Panay Sewell out there and right tackle again. But the athleticism, again, and I think you wrote this, Ryan, a couple of people wrote, it's like we're really underselling the athleticism when we're talking about Monroe Freeling, and he's this 999 Raz, like 940 or 990? I think it's 990.
990.
Yeah, like this guy is also an athletic freak. And so it almost surprised me when I started looking deeper and deeper into Blake Miller's tape as to why this guy was never really considered a top 10 candidate. So I'm pretty enthused about this pick right now.
Yeah, this pick to me, Ryan, is one that I've like when people have asked me about it, like, hey, how do you feel about the Blake Miller pick? It's like for me, and I say this with like all due respect, but it's like it's steak no sizzle for me. And I think that's essentially what you were kind of hoping if the Lions were gonna go for a tackle, like if you couldn't get Fano or Maui Noah, like just get something that's actually like good and something that you are going to be like actually happy with. And I think that's kind of where it came down to with Blake Miller, where it's like, is it necessarily the player that you've been hearing a ton about? Is it necessarily the sexy name that you've been hearing about in the media? No, but it's the guy that in Eric's words, because I had him on the YouTube channel earlier today, like he's the guy that you can feel confident about starting for you probably for the next 10 years, if not longer. Like if he can be the right tackle version of a Taylor Decker for you for the next 10 years, you've done an amazing job with this pick.
I agree. And I think one of the things that we talked about a lot in the pre-draft process when we talked about Blake Miller was like the comparisons to Taylor Decker. And I think what the Lions were able to do is they were able to get a guy in the building who like prides himself on a lot of the same principles that we appreciated Taylor Decker for. Like, I don't know if it's necessarily like a player comp as it is like this guy, he prides himself on durability. He prides himself on toughness. He prides himself on playing for the guy next to him. I think those were the tent poles of Taylor Decker and what he represented to this franchise. So I agree with you, Jeremy. Like, we're not going to pretend that he is Penei Sewell. But I also don't want to buy too much into he has such a high floor that the ceiling is limited.
Right.
I don't buy into the ceiling stuff. Like and this isn't me just drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think that there's too much focus on it's a safe pick. It's a high floor guy. He is who he is. I think that I look at a guy and his resume in college from being a true freshman to where he finished as a senior. He steadily improved in every single respect of his game, whether it was pass blocking, whether it was run blocking, whether it's the grades, whether it's the pressures or the sacks that he allowed. Blake Miller continued to get better each and every year, despite that Clemson team being awful this past couple seasons. And like, there's some credit in that too, for like not taking your foot off the gas and still being a guy who played in the bowl game when he didn't need to play in the bowl. You know what I mean? So like, you just get a guy who is a Lion, and it's the toughness and it's the everything. It's the word that you used earlier, Jeremy. He's a finisher, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think that there's still so much more to Blake Miller once he gets into the building and he gets with Hank Fraley and he has a guy like Penei Sewell as a sounding board. Like, that is the environment that you want Blake Miller to be in, to maybe realize that he's more than just a high floor player. He's a guy who, let's see where the ceiling is.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it feels like the same conversation we had about Aiden Hutchinson 3 or 4 years ago, where it's just like, well, Aiden Hutchinson's a high floor, low ceiling guy. It's a safe pick, but you could have gone with Trayvon Walker, and who knows who he's going to be. Like, this idea that 22-year-old guys have reached their athletic potential is ridiculous. I'm done with it. I'm done talking about low ceiling players unless they're 20, coming out at 26 years old. Like, Blake Miller is literally 22 years old. He just turned 22 a couple months ago. He has plenty to improve upon. And even more importantly, when he talked about that specifically, he's like, there's way more I can improve upon because I'm going to put in the work, because I know that. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm a finished product. I want to continue get better. That is part of like the fun of playing football, the fun of being a competitor is you're always chasing perfection, I think is what he literally said. So I'm glad you brought that up. The other thing I wanted to say really quick, because you mentioned him playing through like a terrible Clemson season, that BC tape again, it's one of the few games they won. They were up, I think, by like 22 points in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes left. They throw a screen pass. He like misses on his initial block. The play is ending. He's still chasing down a guy and running him off the sidelines. Like that is who Blake Miller is.
You guys talk about, again, him continuing to get better each and every season that he was at Clemson. I think that was one of the things that Brad Holmes also hit on, like the fact that they've been scouting him for 3 years. And to me, I think that is kind of the may have been the deciding factor between him and Monroe Freeling, is that while Monroe Freeling is a prospect that has a lot of potential, someone that you could be like, man, he's only had 18 starts, already put himself as a first round candidate, first round draft prospect. How much better could this player be? Blake Miller is the actual evidence of that, of like a guy that just continued to get better and better and better. And it's a player that I feel like you can kind of safely bet on in terms of like, well, if he got better and better at the college level, how much better could he possibly get at the NFL level, where the coaching is a little bit better, where the team as a whole is a little bit better than what he had at college. I think that's the thing where if you're Brad and this regime, you're just looking at that and like, no, that guy has just as much potential and has actually capitalized a lot on the potential that he had at the college level.
And this is something that I think we always forget about every year. And it was with Bryce Young, right? Like a guy who has had success at every level of football he's played and never has really had to deal with adversity. And sometimes that can be tough in the beginning for like a rookie, even a second-year player, where you're used to winning all the time. Blake Miller was not used to winning last season, right? So like he has been through the ups and downs, and he has stayed the consistent player who is improving. I like that guy, and I like his football mental capacity. You know what I mean? In order to ride those lows and those highs. So like that's another thing that like he just checks so many boxes. And I feel very comfortable that he's going to win the right tackle job. I think that Larry Borum is going to give him a run for his money, but I think that I'd be surprised to see anybody other than Blake Miller playing right tackle if he's healthy.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet at this point. At least that's like the feeling that I'm kind of going into camp with Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brad even let slip at one point, like, he's a starting guy out of the box. Like, he's not handing him the right tackle job, but he basically said, Brad Holmes did, Blake Miller can start today.
All right, guys. So with that said, one thing that we're going to do when we go through each of these picks is that we are going to grade them. And I know grading picks is something that not everybody loves, but it's something that everybody does in some capacity. So with that said, with the way that we are going to basically facilitate our grades are basically based on fit, value at the time, and just, overall just like impact on the team. So that's basically what we're going to use to kind of formulate our grades. Jeremy, I'm going to go with you first. What would you grade the Blake Miller pick?
Yeah. Let's be clear here. Miko is forcing our hand here. We don't want to grade these picks, but we're going to do it anyways.
This is one of the few times as the host of the podcast, I got to flex a muscle, and I absolutely did.
You pulled rank.
I'm going to give it an A. The other aspect of this whole thing is need, right? I think we've talked about it 3 or 4 times on this podcast, where if this team was going to fill their 2 biggest needs, offensive tackle and defensive end, they needed to do it in that order. Not just because those were the level of pressing for each need, but because that's what the board was going to look like. There wasn't really an edge defender that I was super excited about. Keldrick Falk would have been a fine pick for me too. But Blake Miller is gritty. He fits what they want. He's the offensive tackle that kind of puts the finishing touches on this offensive line. And after watching his tape, I think you're going to love him as a Lions fan in general. Just the way he plays the game, the way he acts like a humble kid. I can't imagine being more fulfilled by a pick than Blake Miller at 17.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo that as well. That I also give this pick an A, Ryan. I mean, for all the reasons that Jeremy said, it kind of made the most sense. I know with Monroe Freeling on the board, there was definitely some consideration probably amongst a lot of fans of like, maybe it's going to be, the tackle out of Georgia, but I just value the experience. I value the fact that this is a guy that was able to stay healthy at the collegiate level, every season that he was there at Clemson, the fact that he improved every single year. So for me, that's an easy A for this pick.
Yeah, who's cheating off whose homework now? Because I also gave the Blake Miller draft pick an A. And for a lot of the reasons that you guys mentioned, I think the important thing to circle back to is that Brad Holmes didn't have to move up. He didn't have to dip into future draft capital. So that's a value pick in and of itself, right? And you guys mentioned the pick at 19 for Carolina with Monroe Freeling, and then Max, I forgot how to say your last name again, and I will never remember how to say it because you're not on the football team that I cover. the only thing was like at 15, when Ruben Bain was still there, had Ruben Bain been at 15, that would have been a cause for pause. That would have been a cause for pause. But again, the reason it gets an A is because at the beginning of this offseason, there was clearly a message that was being said, and sometimes in a roundabout way, that this team needed to get back to who they were and what they did when they were successful. And I can say now definitively after the NFL draft, I feel 10 times better about the Detroit Lions offensive line than I did, 3 months ago. At the end of the season, it felt like it was such a big uphill climb, and they've given it the attention that it deserved. And I think that the Lions going into next season, they have their most useful weapon, Miko, back in 2026 with their offensive line.
Yeah, I think we can all kind of agree that with this pick that they've made a significant upgrade to this offensive line, and you at least feel much better about 4 of the starting 5 positions. I think one position is definitely still a little bit in flux, but just by going out and adding a player of this caliber, like you said, really kind of seems to put everything back in focus on what this team does well and what they're going to be looking to do well on the offensive side of the board. Getting into the second round, though, is where they kind of switch gears and did finally kind of address, not finally, but were able to address the defensive line in the same way that they were able to address the offensive line, trading up from pick 50 up to pick 44, basically just giving up one of their additional 4th round picks. I believe it was pick 128 to be able to draft Derek Moore with the 44th pick, defensive end out of Michigan. Jeremy, from what just from people that I've talked to, this is the pick that's probably the most like volatile of like how people kind of feel about it, or not even necessarily volatile, but like I think people have a hard time discerning how they should feel about this pick. Where do you land on the Derek Moore pick?
I'm pretty high on it. Of course, people aren't satisfied once he finally takes an edge.
Shocker!
Why would they?
The Michigan guy.
No, I understand. Like a lot of this conversation is going to have to be around the other edges that were available, right? Like Zion Young goes right after the Lions. You presume that they tried to jump Baltimore because there's the Jesse Minter ties to the Michigan program. Who knows if that was going to be the pick or not? But there are other guys available. Yakus was still on the board. And so if you want to have that conversation, that's fine. Like I'm not going to act like I'm a better scout than the Lions. And so to me, it's kind of a pick your poison thing. I understand that like if you want to play the consensus big board game, that this was like a 15 to 20 pick, reach if you want to go that way. But I'd rather just talk about the player that they got. And to me, I was a little bit surprised that was like the profile that they wanted, because Yakus was kind of more of like the actual like big physical edge setter type. Not that Derek Moore can't do that. Derek Moore is very willing to do all of that, but he's a little bit on the smaller side, right? Like 6'4"-ish, 255, where Yakus is 260. It's not a huge difference, but arm length is a little bit better for Yakus. Hand length, or hand size, in general, maybe a little bit more bursty in general, but I mean, you're talking about a guy who has good pass rush production, a guy that is probably further along as a pass rusher than he is as an edge setter. And I feel like that's what everybody has been wanting for years. Now, is he like this elite, speedy bender type? Like, no, but he's got athleticism. I know he didn't run the 40, and I guess he doesn't have a RAS for not doing a lot of those athletic drills. But if you throw on the tape, man, like, I wouldn't call him a bender, but I also wouldn't say he can't bend. All while kind of bringing that physical mentality of like, he is going to set the edge. He is going to long arm you. He's going to go speed to power in ways that I think fit what the Lions want to do on the edge. And so my biggest question for him is honestly like, most of his work he was doing standing up. So how is that going to look with his hand in the ground? Is he going to put his hand on the ground? Are they going to change some things? Are they going to play something like a 3-4? I don't know the answer to those questions. I will say the biggest part of this pick to me is just, it was a little bit of a surprise in terms of just like a slight tweak of their preference. It isn't these 270 guys with whatever inch arms that's going to maul through you guys, but he plays with that mentality. So it does make some sense to me.
Yeah. I would say again to tell on myself, like I'm very much in the same camp of like a lot of people that maybe are a little unsure how to feel about this pick because it is what you said, Jeremy. Looking at the other prospects that were on the board, it definitely was something that I had to wrestle with in terms of like, okay, am I going to just nitpick this selection because do I really think like Zion Young is that much better than Derek Moore? Do I think Gabe Yakas is that much better than Derek Moore? When I feel like in a number of conversations that even we had on this podcast, like Derek Moore was someone that we were like, hey, if the Lions take an edge and it ends up being Derek Moore, that's not a bad pick. It's not a bad selection, but I think where a lot of people get caught up in is that, well, Zion Young was still available and Gabe Yakas was available. And it was something that I even asked Eric about in terms of like when you talk about culture fits and things like that, like, well, Gabe Yakas and Zion Young both had higher grit scores than Derek Moore did. And so like it's becomes one of those things where I think you have to look at this is probably a selection they made, not just based off of character alone, because I think those three guys in particular all could have checked those boxes for the Lions. It's a matter of what is it that we are expecting our edge to do? And it at least looks like what Derek Moore does best. They feel like that's where they want this defensive line to kind of go, Ryan. And so for me, that's where like I kind of have to take away any like bias that I already had going into that pick and just be okay with the fact that like, you know what, they still got a really high quality edge. It may not have been the edge that I thought they would take or even necessarily the edge that I wanted them to take, but it's a guy that is going to help this defensive line in the long run.
Yeah, I think initially when the pick was made, it was Brad Holmes is trading up. What did Brad Holmes give up to move up and get his guy? And correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, either of you, but I feel like I remember Brad Holmes saying that he was the top edge on their board going into day two.
That's right. He did. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we made so much of the offensive tackle and the defensive end thing, and these are two obvious glaring needs both now and in the future for Detroit, and Brad Holmes checked off both those boxes. So like that needs to be commended, and he didn't give up future draft capital. At least, you know, he gave up the pick that he got in the David Montgomery trade to get Derek Moore, essentially, right?
Yep.
I was surprised by the pick for a lot of the reasons that you mentioned, Jeremy, that maybe he's not the size profile of the players that they have gotten in the past, but I think that you're hoping that he is a guy who is Josh Paschal, but with pass rush. And what I mean by that is I think that they can really kick him inside as a three tech and move him inside. And I think his speed, and I think that his long arms are going to maybe give some of those guards problems if he can get around them quick enough, which he has some of the burst, he has some of the explosiveness to do that along the interior. So you get some of that positional versatility that I think they liked with Paschal, but he was just a little bit heavier in the pants. And a little bit shorter too. Whereas Derek Moore has these long arms. He's a bigger guy. He can still set the edge. I really like the pick. Would I have liked Zion Young and just like maybe getting him instead? Who knows if he would have been there? Maybe Minter liked Derek Moore and he would have taken Derek Moore and you could have kept pick 128 and still ended up with Yakas or Young. So there's a little bit of that. Whereas I didn't feel that way with the Blake Miller pick. You know, in the first round, it was like, I'm cool with this. You sat there, you let the board come to you, and you took your guy. This one was, I don't know. Sorry, Jeremy. I know you got like an early night off because after this, Brad Holmes said we are done with day two. But there's part of me that could they have moved back? Could they have maybe targeted another position? Like I love the pick in terms of you finally got the edge. I don't know how much I love the Brad Holmes, like hee hee har har, like I finally got you an edge player. Will you guys get off my ass kind of thing? But I just wonder what could have been. Like, could there have been a third round pick that the Lions could have maybe got themselves into if they traded back? I don't know. Like, if I'll just go out and I'll grade the pick right now. I think that I'm like close to like a B-, and like I'm not trying to kind of laugh and like give myself the out on if he hits, because I do think that there is a player that I understand the vision with him. I understand like what they're going to want to do with him because I saw them trying to do it for a few years with Josh Paschal.
Right.
Like there is something that's there. And it's funny, Jeremy, a lot of the things that you said about like, oh, like, standing up at Michigan more than he had like his hand in the dirt. It's like we had all these conversations with Aiden Hutchinson, right? They're going to figure it out. And they have a defensive line coach in Casey Rogers who, if there's going to be a guy who's going to get all of what maybe he has to offer out of him in terms of his potential, it could happen. I just don't know if I loved moving up, and with him being like a second round, kind of third round guy, I don't know. Like it feels like maybe the value wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah, I think right around the B area as well. I think with more, I want to talk about the trade up and things like that, because in general, a mid to late fourth round pick is relatively meaningless to me. And I know no GM is going to think that necessarily, but I think there is something to say about the fact that they had no interest in going into the third round. They had no interest in trading up. They had no interest in trading back and adding a third round pick. Brad was done by like pick 60. Like he was done. He literally, that's when he started talking to the media. Pick 60. Like the second round wasn't even done yet, and he was done. And I think that probably speaks to the depth of this year's class. And so trading away 128, probably not that big of a deal to him. And that's fine. And it does feel like, at least if you trust Holmes with his word, like they were running out of guys in that cluster, of players in that edge level talent that they had. And I don't know if I completely believe him that he was their edge one on day 2, but maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But in general, you got a guy that's going to give you solid production. If anyone is expecting someone opposite Aiden Hutchinson to consistently post 10 plus sacks a year, not going to happen. If they had brought back Al-Qadina Muhammad, he wasn't going to make that happen again. It just, when you're drafting in the second round, really specifically at the edge position, if you can just get a medium like production guy, that's good value. And I think that's absolutely on the table with Derek Moore. I think the pressure rates that he posted in college, that was top 5 at his position in true pass rush sets, somewhere in the 30-something percentage according to PFF.
It was among the top 10 edge prospects in the class. He ranked 3rd in true pass rush win rate, just behind David Bailey and Akeem Messidor.
Yeah, and if you're getting a guy who has the will, like I know the grit ranking wasn't good for him, but he's a captain. He is very selfless as a player. Like he'll just throw his body around to I view him as a guy that would absolutely crash in so that Aleem can stunt around him. That is something that he's probably willing and happy to do, because he did stuff like that at Michigan. So the character is good. The production was way better than I was expecting for someone available in the second round. And I think the run defense stuff is going to come along. And quite frankly, I don't quite understand why the run defense grades were as bad as they were, because based on what I've seen, which admittedly is just a fraction of his tape, he seems both willing and able to set the edge.
The pass deflections too, Miko. This is funny. Like the guy with the long arms, right? Like we saw Tyleik Williams get in on this a little bit last season, but 3 passes defended last season, 2 the season prior, 2 the season prior. Like, love that too.
Yeah, I think overall, I'm kind of with both of you guys in regards to like this is more of a B grade for me, because like the trade up honestly kind of probably brings this grade down. Honestly, if we're being honest, like if this was the pick at 50, I probably would be closer to like a B plus A minus type of thing. But it was kind of the fact that this was a trade up, and it was kind of the equivalent of like, it's kind of the equivalent of like your parents being like, hey, we're gonna pump you up, like, hey, we're gonna take you guys out to eat to like your favorite restaurant, and you get super excited and you're like, oh, where are we going? And it's like, oh, we're going to like Chick-fil-A. And you're like, oh, like I like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is awesome, but like the way you hyped this up for me, I thought we were going like 5-star type of deal here. And that's kind of like how the Derek Moore pick kind of landed with me, where it was like, I'm excited the fact that we're moving up, because once Jacob Rodriguez kind of went off the board, it was like, oh, like we're kind of moving into territory where there's like a lot of these are true second round picks, but there were still a couple of like first round talents that were kind of available. The safety out of Toledo was still available. Avion Terrell was still kind of available out there. And it was like, are they going to go up for one of these guys? And then obviously still in the back of my head, it was like, Gabe Yakas seems like a perfect culture fit, and then it ended up being Derek Moore, and it was like, oh, I like Derek Moore. Like it's nice. I just kind of got a little excited once I saw the trade up. So for me, it very much is a B. And Jeremy, you talk about his grit score. Like this is something that like Eric provided a lot of clarity for me for as well, because like I was very curious on like, man, the Lions do prioritize such high character. And when you have a guy specifically in Yakas that has like an even higher score, I think he scored like a 9 on the grit index.
Yeah.
Eric had to provide a lot of clarity into like how they collect information, and even kind of spilled for me. And I really encourage anybody who hasn't seen this interview that I did with Eric earlier today to go check that video out. But he provides a lot of clarity in the fact that like there was some information that came out after the draft about Derek Moore that had they had it, probably would have put him up into like the 8s with the way that they were scoring things. So to your point about him being a captain, him being a high character guy, the Lions didn't go that far off the tread when it comes down to like the types of guys that they want to have on this roster.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, you know, grit is kind of like a binary thing. You're either a guy that's going to go out for your team or you're not. And I very much think Derek Moore fits their football character.
Yeah, I do wonder though, like, what is his stance on like quality craft jerky though? Like, do you think he's pro jerky or anti jerky? Because I think that should probably be one of the things that Brad needs to start asking any of the prospects that he drafts before he gets there is like, where do you stand on Righteous Felon craft jerky? Because it is one of the best jerkies out there. And I think that should kind of start to weigh in on whether or not he's going to draft a said player. The Pride of Detroit PODcast is brought to you by Righteous Felon craft jerky. It's the jerky that fuels the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Each 2-ounce bag of jerky has 16 to 20 grams of protein, and each stick has 8 grams. Trust me, if it's good enough for the Lions, it's going to be good enough for you too. Righteous Felon is based in Westchester, Pennsylvania. They use locally sourced, all-natural Black Angus beef and prides itself on superior quality, revolutionary branding, and unique flavors that go beyond the stereotypical jerky offering. Now, Jeremy, normally I would just start talking about the different promo codes we have here, but I need to like kind of confirm something before I give misinformation.
Yeah.
Is the promo code that we've been promoting still available for limited time use, or is that already expired?
I believe they're turning it off Tuesday morning. So if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, just check right now. Like, pause the show. If you want to try Righteous Felon, try the new promo code, which I'll let you say right now.
Draft POD 26.
Yeah, for 26% off. It is quite literally last minute. The last chance for you to get in on this. Put in that promo code. Get literally more than 1/4 off your price, which is something we've quite literally never done in the, 4 or 5 years we've been partnered with Righteous Felon. So this is definitely the time, and you've quite literally waited till the last minute. So go like it's Black Friday and go get some beef jerky.
And you know what? Because we are recording this a little bit earlier, I might even do you guys a favor and actually, publish this earlier than the next day so that you guys actually have an opportunity to take advantage of this promo code one more time before Tuesday gets here. So like Jeremy said, head over to righteousfelon.com, use the promo code DRAFTPOD26 to get bigger savings than you have ever had on such amazing jerky, such as Val Capone meat sticks, as far as Truffalo Bill, Marilyn Monroe, just so many good amazing flavors. I believe you're holding up the habanero Escobar flavor.
That's right.
See, listen, I could barely see it. It was a little blurry, and I still could just tell from the packaging alone. There are so many great flavors to check out at righteousfelon.com. So take advantage of this amazing savings and go check them out right now. When we come back, we're going to get to the rest of this draft class and talk about some of the other players that the Lions added to this roster and give out some more grades on each of these prospects. We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more right after this.
What's up, chat? How we doing? I feel like the buzz around the Lions draft has been like the guy at the computer, the little kid at the computer, like
just solid thumbs up.
Yeah, just a solid thumbs up. And I'll take that because usually there's a lot more anger. Even when Brad pulls off a really good draft, I feel like there's a lot more anger.
There was only one thing that I was angry about in this draft, Ryan, and it was the fact that like there would be a player on the board where I'm like, man, that guy would be great on the Lions, and he would literally go like 1 to 2 picks before.
Yeah, Keontae Scott 2 picks before Jimmy Rolder was a nut
Keontae
punch.
Scott.
Well,
Keontae Scott, Jacob Rodriguez, Ruben Bain.
Yeah.
I guess it did happen just about every round they were picking, right?
It was just like it felt like it for me, where it was just like every round I'm like, oh man, like if this guy falls, like it's gonna be really interesting to see what the Lions do. And it was like, nope, don't even get an opportunity to have that discussion.
I know, which is like what makes the Derek Moore grade kind of hard for me, where it's like everything that you said, Miko, even on the podcast, like in that last segment that we were just going with, is like it's the guy, but it's not the guy that I really liked, but that doesn't mean that he can't work here, right? That doesn't mean that he could potentially thrive here. So it's like you can't be, you can't be grumpy pants over the fact that Brad Holmes got an offensive tackle and an edge, and then we're about to talk about how he went 3 for 3 on filling needs that this team may have. You can't get upset because like he addressed the positions that I hoped he was going to address.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there was maybe one pick where I was like, I don't know, whatever, who cares? We're late enough in the draft that it doesn't matter.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's only one pick that I was just like, I don't know if I like that one. Like that one's gonna take a while to grow on me.
And listen, like if you preferred a guy and the Lions took a guy at the same position that wasn't your guy, like you can be upset about that. That's fine.
How upset though? Like you can't be calling Brad Holmes an idiot. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like you have to reserve the right, just like put it in writing that you
Yes.
wanted Monroe Freeling instead of Blake Miller, and then if Monroe Freeling becomes a stud, then you can like
say, see, I told you.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
do the I told you so thing.
Yeah. No, that's totally fair. And as someone who probably didn't do as much research on the draft class as I should have, but that's why I have other people on staff who like doing that stuff. I certainly don't have strong opinions of like, well, they should have gotten Zion Young instead of this guy. Like maybe, but I don't know. But to your point, like even if I put in all the research I could possibly do, even if I watch all 22 of 5 games and look at all the PFF grades and read all the scouting reports, it still pales in comparison to the information that Brad Holmes has. It pales. My reputation pales in comparison to Brad Holmes' 20 plus years as a college scouter, right? Like, I'm not saying you can't criticize Brad Holmes, but be humble enough to realize that your opinion might be wrong and his opinion probably has a better chance of being right.
Well, plus you think you have certain things pinned down about him, right? Where it's like these are the kind of guys that they like, especially like their edge defenders. They need to be this way and they need to look this way and weigh this much. And it's like, oh, so Zion Young fits the bill. And then when he's not the guy and it's Derek Moore and it's a little bit of a curveball, it's like, that's not how Brad Holmes usually does things. I thought I knew who Brad Holmes was.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, like, to Jeremy's point, like, the minute you turn on the tape for Derek Moore, it's like, oh, okay, no, I see why.
Yeah.
I see why he's the guy.
Yeah.
For sure.
But it does raise the question, though, which I meant to say during the segment, though. It's like my biggest concern about Derek Moore is he going to be able to reinvent himself at the next level? Because, like, listen, you're dog walking people with speed to power at the collegiate level.
Yeah, you gotta have something.
And I watched
You gotta have something more than a bull rush. You gotta have something more than a bull rush. Yeah.
I watched Aiden Hutchinson run his head into that wall for like half a season before he realized, like, oh wait, like I need to break out a spin move or something because some of these guys are actually strong.
Right.
It's where Casey Rogers comes in, right? Where it's like,
and it goes back to like Aiden Hutchinson wasn't at his ceiling, right? Like there was room for him to grow.
Yeah, the floor was so high. That's what it was. The floor was just so high for Aiden. The floor was the ceiling.
That's right.
But yeah, because like I've seen enough people like obviously, send out a retweet or whatever, like the Senior Bowl tape, and he's just like bowling over Markel Bell, I think that was.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just like, it's like that looks awesome. I don't think the Lions play the 49ers, but I'm just like, in my head, I was like, that's not going to work against Trent Williams. Like,
right. For sure. All right. Let me get to some alerts and we'll talk a little more Lions draft and then we'll get back into the show. Are we going to go 3 segments or do you think we can knock out all the day 3 picks in one segment?
I have a hard time imagining we're going to have a lot to say about the 6th and 7th round pick.
I've got
With
so
all due
much to
respect.
say. So much to say. But we should also like just kind of save some overall thoughts for the draft class at the end too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Chaco Bobrovskit Bowl. Thank you for the 66 months subscribed on Twitch. Says, let's go. Got that grid on the draft. JC. Thank you for the 29 months. Says Avante Maddox anniversary. True. Can you think of better 29? You're good at that game, Ryan, because that's how you celebrate your own birthday. So, like, what was that, last year?
No. Admittedly, 29 was a hard year to do it.
I have to imagine, yeah.
Yeah. 30 was easy. Everything 30 and up has been super easy, but 29 is not a popular number.
True. McVeigh Rob, 37 months, says Brad was a chef, excited for next season. Yeah, as I was kind of looking over the depth chart, I'm like, I kind of like it. But I'm kind of not worried too much about anything in particular. I mean, there are certain things, but we can get to that in a little bit. Monkey, thank you for the 38 months, who says Nick Whiteside anniversary. Digging deep for that one. Happy with this draft. Did what they had. Did good with what they had. Is 38 an easy one for you? I know you haven't gotten there yet.
38?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy Bonderman.
He is not getting mentioned in back-to-back podcasts.
Well, it already happened, so.
He just was.
Yeah.
Nick the Greek, 22 in a row, 65 total, says 65 months, 65. True. Flair, 65 months as well, but at tier 2, not to one up you, Nick the Greek, but tier 2 says got to 65. Should I retire? Nah, leave that for Skip and Decker. I'm coming back. Well, Flair, we need to talk about your contract.
Oh,
Just
no.
kidding.
He's going the other way down the tunnel.
Nick the Greek 100 bits says, I'm just glad Brad didn't sell third rounders on fire as dark voodoo ritual. One thing I wanted to check out, because I didn't hear of it at all in the first round, how many trades were there that included 2027 draft capital?
I can run through them while you continue to run through alerts if you'd like.
Do you have a list that you can consult?
Yeah, I'm just on Wiki and I can see it pretty easily.
Okay. Nice. Joe A. Tiger, always get it wrong, 15 months says, hey guys, I had to pause Miko's YouTube video with Eric to jump on and watch the pod live. MCDC said, all offseason we have the hard stuff done. Seems like to me the additions this offseason, especially the draft, were plugging holes with high floor competent starters. Love this draft. By the way, can you bring up the RAS scores of Freeling and Miller? Look at them closely and tell me who the better athlete is. Let's do that. I'm going to do that right now. By the way, I stopped for a minute today just to think about how cool it is that RAS is like pervasive. If you're a draft analyst, you know what RAS is. I've seen it used on like NFL Network, and I think Dane might have even used it. And I'm just like, that's Ken. he used to be here. That's our Ken.
Yeah, like I've hung out with Ken on a bunch of different occasions, and that guy is ubiquitous. Like, people don't like, oh, this was their 40 time, this was their bench, no, people just go, here's their RAS. Like, it's like a quick, like, here's a way to get a snapshot of their athleticism. And I love it. It's just like one number, right? You don't have to focus on all the other numbers.
Right.
Or list them all out. And like Kent did that. Math Bomb. The guy with the mustache. The guy with the old-timey mustache that would curl up and wear a bowler hat on our podcast.
I'll share my screen so that you guys can see it too.
Again, I'll tease a little bit of something that I asked Eric in the video that we did on YouTube, but like I kind of asked him something similar about Grit Index, because it's like, obviously it's something that they initially created to like quantify like the types of picks that Brad's making, but it's just like, in a lot of ways, it's a really good way of, I'm seeing it as a really good way of quantifying like teams that are putting so much value on character. And it's just like, how is that translating to like on-field success? And it's like, it would be really cool if that turned into something that spanned beyond the Lions.
Right. Yeah. They put enough work into it. I think the tough part with grit index is like it's so subjective, and like the good thing about Raz is like you can see why the score is what they score, right? Like you're just taking data that everyone already knows and understands and contextualizing it in a way. Grit index, like it's hard to be completely transparent when there's like it's not just like a 5:04 40-yard dash. That's 9:13 for an offensive tackle. Like, you know what I mean?
One person's definition of toughness is different than another person's definition of toughness. Like we're talking about intangibles, right? They're not numbers.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's like the interesting thing that I find about the grit index is like you're finding ways of like taking those things and quantifying them. Because
of course.
much as character is talked about as like a component of drafting, like it's one of those things that it's just like, I mean, we talk about it even amongst Lions fans in regards to like how much should the Lions continue to prioritize character over like on-field talent. And I think like I brought it up with Eric, like I think like the Eagles are a really good example of that, where it's like everyone looks at what Howie Roseman's doing and it's like, well, they seem to just be getting talent and not really fixating too much on character. But it's like, well, in relation to what, right? Like,
sure,
how much does an arrest factor in versus like someone being a 4-year captain, or, you know, like you were talking about, like the display of toughness, like how does that kind of skew the scales one way or another?
Yeah. It's hard to quantify, but it is a really cool endeavor that him and Anthony are doing, and it takes a lot of work. And I think clearly now 2 years in a row, the juice has been worth the squeeze, because they've gotten this year it was 3 drafted in the top 30 of Grit Index or something like that.
Yeah.
I think the year before they had some pretty similar numbers. And yeah, like Blake Miller was not a consensus guy better than Monroe Freeling or better than some of the other guys that were on the board. But I think due to the Grit Index, we made a really strong case at Pride of Detroit why he should be the pick at 17, and lo and behold, he was.
How happy were you that we wrote an article of why the Lions should draft Blake Miller? We got one of them.
When the Lions were on the clock, I'm like, I knew I should have written that Monroe Freeling article. Because I was going to this week. I was just going to, just because it was like, not because I wanted to be right,
but it's going to be like probably one of these guys, right?
Yes, yeah. It was the blind spot in our coverage of who the Lions should draft. I'm like, crap. But should have just trusted Eric in the moment.
Yeah, Eric pointed out, like, so Blake Miller was like the highest offensive tackle, or was the offensive tackle with the highest grit score, and then Skylar Gill Warren.
Yeah, highest defensive lineman.
Howard, sorry, highest defensive lineman. And
Grit
the Lions
score.
got both of those guys.
His story's crazy. I can't. If you watched our PODD video, you heard me gush about him, because I'm just so excited to see where his career goes. Not necessarily because he's like this extremely talented guy, but just because he should be a fan favorite. Like to me, he's like Ahmed Hassanin last year, where it's just like, you're going to love everything about this guy and the way he plays football too.
I'm intrigued. I have an answer for you for the number of 2027 picks that were traded.
Okay.
In the first round, there was only one, but it was before the draft. It was when the Rams and the Chiefs made that trade that included Trent McDuffie.
And
Yeah.
and I mean, if you want to go back to last year, the Packers traded away their first round pick both this year and next year, right?
Yeah. In the Micah Parsons deal.
In the Micah Parsons deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That doesn't count though.
So, yeah, I'm just, I don't know. You want to run through alerts? Because there's other like fun things from the draft that I kind of want to talk about too.
Okay, yeah. Let me run through them. Mr. Broker, thank you for the 49 months subscribed to us on Twitch. 80 Jerome, 16 months, says, love that Holmes showed that he isn't always going to trade future draft capital for this year. Turns out he does have some restraint. Yeah. I'm I'm going to unfairly credit. Why do I always forget his name? the sweatshirt guy. What's his name? He came from the Browns.
Oh.
I always forget his name. 100%.
John Dorsey?
John Dorsey.
John Dorsey. John Dorsey is to Brad Holmes what that guy that holds Sean McVay back on the sidelines is to Sean McVay. Just don't get a penalty. Pull you back, buddy. Don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's John Dorsey. And I have zero sources on that. It just feels like that's... I feel maybe he said that when he thought about trading up for Levi. Did he mention Dorsey? Because I remember he talked about wanting to trade up for Levi into the first round and didn't.
I'll look it up.
Okay. And while you do that, I will continue to read alerts. A $10 super chat over there from Xander's allows. Says, people forget Zion Young had a DWI, probably not a fit. Plus, I think the Abney pick could signal more zone next year. Abney was not great at man, but he was great at closing in zone with the field in front of him. Yeah, we'll talk about Abney. I agree with the back half. I do think he's a good closer, but I think I liked what I saw from some man stuff. But anyways, we'll talk about that. Yes, he did mention Dorsey, says RGA. Maybe that's where I got that from then. Captain James Kirk, 20 bits, says the Blake Miller has a low ceiling. Talk is driving me crazy. He's 22 years old. Yeah, I'm with you there. Dude Bottom, 7 months, subscribed on Twitch, says, do you think a team could have drafted McCoy and put him on NFI, have the knee surgery, and toll his first year? No. So the tolling of a contract only works for the final year of a contract. You don't toll the first year or the second year or the third year. It's just the final year of a deal. Yeah, Detroit, 80 months subscribed on Twitch. Appreciate you, buddy. Joshua Mercer, 100 bits, says, with Derek Moore, can you just give a little bit on what Eric added before I hop over to that interview after Mika regarding the grid index? Yeah, did he provide specifics on like the new information that would have bumped him up, or no?
No, he did say it came from Todd McShay, but he didn't say specifically what it was. So I'm assuming if you probably go find whatever Todd McShay said about Derek Moore is probably the piece of information that would have probably bumped up his score.
Interesting. Let me look at his profile from... I don't know.
Like that conversation as a whole was like really interesting with Eric, and just in regards to like, again, if you're not familiar with like the work that he and Anthony, or specifically like a lot of the work that Anthony does in collecting like the different resources and things like that for them to formulate those scores.
Yeah.
Like that conversation really kind of was eye-opening to me to understand like how they get to their final scores, and like why it's kind of difficult. Like he kind of talked about why it's so difficult to score guys that are, day 3 guys, or once you get to like 6th, 7th round guys, like the difficulties in the metric.
Okay. I couldn't find anything, but anyways. He said all the U of M players are scored lower. The coaching issues probably prevented some of the normal information from getting out.
Yeah, he speculated that might have been, or he speculated like he was wondering if that was a contributing factor.
You missed the first segment, Super Bowl man. We're, an hour in.
There's something I found from 2021, and it's not the exact thing about Dorsey telling Holmes to like let the board come to him and not trade up for Onwuzurike, but it's really interesting reading it, and then also remembering what Brad Holmes said about Blake Miller on draft night. So just listen. So this is an interview that Robert Mays from The Athletic did with Brad Holmes in a podcast. And Robert May said, above all else, in your first draft with the 7th overall pick, you just need to hit on a guy. And to have it be just so coincidentally at a spot where you already feel good about everything else, I'm sure there's a peace of mind that comes along with the knowledge that you might have just finished off the offensive line for 2021. And Brad Holmes said, funny you say that. So it was probably about a week before the draft. We were kind of going through some scenarios. And we brought up Panay, and our senior personnel executive, John Dorsey, with all the experience that he had as a GM and putting together successful rosters. I said to him, man, Panay would just be awesome to land. I'll never forget Dorsey goes, well, it helps you sleep better at night. And remember, they were saying, like, with Blake Miller, you just, like, you're going to, like, we're just going to sleep better at night, knowing that we have Blake Miller. So, like, it's funny to see that kind of mirrored, because he, it's just like, oh, and he said, and when he said it, it just really hit me. I was like, you're right. It does help you sleep better when you add it. When you add that, like in Panay, it just affects so many other things. So, like, that was the one other thing too. Like, Miko, you said you feel really good about 4 of the spots: Blake, Tate, Cade, Panay. But, like, I feel good about whoever's playing next to Panay Sewell.
That's what I was gonna say
Whoever plays
too.
next
Yeah,
to Panay has got an easy road. Like
Christian Mahogany.
I was thinking about doing
Miles
like
Frazier.
a winners losers type of story about the draft, and Christian Mahogany was definitely going to be a winner just by having Panay moved, like, definitively now moving to the left.
Ben March, you're a winner.
You might have to put, like, both of them there. Like, Christian Mahogany, Miles Frazier. Whoever wins the job, you win.
Jared Goff is a winner. Jahmyr Gibbs is a winner.
The whole offense.
Giovanni
wins.
Manu,
The team wins.
not as much.
Oh, so man.
I mean, they didn't take another tackle, so I mean,
They just added one in free agency and drafted one into the first round. You are definitively offensive tackle 4 at this point, which does not guarantee you a roster spot. And you're also probably not guaranteed to be the OT4. Like, I think you still probably have to win that job.
another big winner of the draft, the entire linebacking core. Like, you're all safe. Like, based on the depth alone.
There's only 6 of you, and we're not going to cut any of you. The bad news, though, is you're going to have to pull double duty at training camp, because we run 3 teams deep and there's only 6 of you. So unless they're only playing 2 linebacker sets.
I was going to say, hello, 4-2-5. Here we go.
I'm telling. Just play some 3-4. Make Aiden and Wanham and Derek OLBs.
So me and Eric were talking about that, like, after we recorded our video, of just, like, what the hell this defense is going to look like.
Yeah.
And it's just like, do they play more 3-4?
I think it's on the
And it's
table.
just like-
I talked about it with Eric too. Like, Aiden was standing up a lot. Derek Moore standing up a lot. DJ Wanham can do that. It's time to throw back things to, like, 2015 and pepper the Lions coaching staff with questions of, is it going to be a 3-4 or 4-3?
Get ready for a whole lot of multiple answers. Like, we're just gonna be multiple. We're gonna do whatever we feel like best caters to our guys.
I think reporters reporters stopped asking that question when they realize, oh, everyone runs everything.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though.
It is.
A couple more alerts here, and then we'll talk about whatever. DC Smithers, £5 super chat over on YouTube, says Brad Holmes' thoughts are this class are also reflected in last year's trade up to Slaw. Even the Ravens let their owner make the pick. What? I'm confused by that comment. You're saying, and Holmes did kind of say this. I didn't quite understand what he meant, but I guess it could possibly be interpreted that the reason why he was so willingly departing with a couple of third-round picks this year was because he didn't like the class.
I'm gonna be honest. I think that might be, like, my least favorite excuse for, like, why we traded away future draft picks is, like,
I agree.
I don't like the class, and it's like,
you didn't even know what the class was going to look like.
Right? Like, you don't know who's gonna be available in the third. You don't know who's going to develop out of the third round. Like, that's just a
Well, apparently he just sees a wide receiver on the field once 3 years ago and is like, I'm going to draft that guy when he comes out, whenever that is.
I will say, so I told you guys I like looked at, because Bleacher Report did like their way too early mock draft for next year.
Yeah.
And it was just like, if it were to be true, if it literally played out that way, I'm like, next year's draft is going to be insane to like have to cover, because they have like 4 quarterbacks going in the top 5. And I was like, it's going to be a nightmare just to hear that talked about, of which of these 4 quarterbacks is going 1.
Just don't listen to any national draft coverage next year, because that's literally all they're going to talk about. If
like the rest of the class
turns
is,
out to be.
yeah, if there are 4 quarterbacks that are all seen as like first round talents, like that entire class is like, the rest of that class is getting ignored, except for
Yeah.
the receiver out of Ohio State.
All right, a couple more alerts here, and then we're done. Trucker Tom, thank you for the follow on Twitch. Zach Hendrickson, thank you for the follow on YouTube. And Captain James Kirk 25-bit says, Buddy the Elf voice. What is Oh. Kentley Platt! I know him! I can't do a Buddy the Elf. I can't do a Will Ferrell impression.
You certainly tried, though.
I did. I just yelled. That's my Will Ferrell impression.
It's not far off.
Yeah, you didn't sound excited enough. You got to like, it's got to be like that innocent excitement.
Jeremy just got done covering the draft. All of that was sucked right out of him.
Give me a week. That's my joy refractory period.
Oh man. Is that it for alerts?
That's it for alerts. We're all the way through our alerts. You want to jump back in, or do you have anything else? You wait. You had some things you wanted to talk about, or did you already talk about them?
How much did you enjoy, like, what was at least like a perceived, and I want to buy it, like a perceived Sean McVay was super perturbed at Ty Simpson being the pick, right? Like,
I'm actually not buying it.
You're not buying that he was I think just hearing the word, like, if Eric Schlitt was covering the Los Angeles Rams, hearing that the 13th pick overall was going to come in and compete with Stetson Bennett I would have seen Eric's soul leave his body. If the Lions were picking at 13 and they picked Ty Simpson and Stetson Bennett was on the roster, and they said that your 13th pick, you were a team that was a couple of plays away from making the Super Bowl, and instead of getting better anywhere,
I mean, they already traded for corners, right? Like,
yeah, but you could have gotten Ruben Bain. Like, the fact that you could have had Ruben Bain.
I'm not going to defend the pick. I'm not defending the pick.
Like, I don't. Vega wouldn't have been better for Matthew Stafford this season right now.
I'm not defending the pick. Okay.
Monroe Freeling wouldn't have been better for Matthew Stafford this
I'm
year.
just saying, I can't imagine you draft your future franchise quarterback without thoroughly running that by Sean McVay. Thoroughly. Like, it's his offense, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I think you ran it by him, and I think he was like, I think he might have been non-committal at best.
I just don't believe
And
that.
then you were
I don't
just
think
taking
Les
what
Snead is stupid enough to be like, well, the guy who runs my entire offense doesn't want this quarterback, but I'm going to do it anyways. I don't believe, one, that Les Snead is that bad of a general manager, and two, that they're that dysfunctional over there. I just don't. I refuse to believe it. And maybe that's me being naive, but I refuse to believe it.
It was a bad pick.
Okay.
I was gonna say
Sure.
You know what? I know that wasn't the original thing. Like, I was bringing up Sean McVay's reaction to it, but like, I think you can call a spade a spade. Like, it's just a bad pick. Like, what about the Rams offseason said we're preparing for 2028? They, like you said, they traded to get Trent McDuffie.
Sure.
They
But
they're clearly doing things to go all in now. They were a play or two away from making the Super Bowl, and you draft a backup quarterback at 13. Like, I think that there's just like, there's so many other viable and realistic ways that you could have improved your football team this season, which is what matters the most. Like, their window is wide open right now.
well, not anymore. Now their window just extended because they got their franchise quarterback.
Oh boy, yeah, Ty Simpson. Oh,
The quarterback that's compared
hold on.
to JJ
Pull off-
McCarthy.
pull off J- yeah,
Dan
pull off Jason's
Orlovsky!
mask. It's Dan Orlovsky. It's old man Orlovsky. I would have got away with it
This
too.
beef jerky is terrible. That's Dan Orlovsky because he has terrible food takes.
When I eat the beef jerky, I peel off all the skin around it, and then I eat it.
My favorite terrible pick though of the first round has to be the Vikings taking Caleb Banks.
Admittedly, I don't know a ton about Caleb Banks because
He's
drafting
kind of
an
like-
interior defensive lineman was not
Yeah.
on my
Listen,
radar.
It was one of
He's a big
those
boy.
things where like I don't want to pretend like I'm not gonna sit here and say like I was super well versed in like where every player was projected, but it was one of those where like when the name came up, I'm like, that's a reach. Before I even looked at the beast, I was like, that was not a first round defensive tackle. And then I looked and Brugler had him as like a third or a fourth rounder, and I was like, and I just laughed on
Did
the
you
stream.
really?
I was like, there's no way.
He
Yeah.
had him ranked 52nd overall, so he was like a third round grade.
Also,
It's like
the only
I
thing,
thought they fired I thought they fired Kwesi.
the only thing I'll say
It showed.
about him is that it is hard to find someone who is 330
Oh
with that kind of pass rushing acumen.
yeah.
But
They didn't have a GM though, right? Like they fired Kwesi and they didn't have a GM.
correct.
Is this the alternative?
A lot of people did not like the Vikings draft. I saw on that like one thing that Twitter does every year is they put it together this chart. I think it's a really cool chart. Like even if you don't like draft grades, I think it's just impressive. I'll share it again. It's I can just do that. I'll do this so you guys at home can see it a little better. But it's draft grades for everyone averaged out and then ranked. So Jacksonville, Rams, 49ers, Vikings, Cardinals had the bottom 5. Lions are right in the middle. But it doesn't just average every grade that each team got. It averages the grade that each grader gave at the bottom.
Oh.
And so Chad Reuter from NFL.com, you can see, did not even give out a C. Everyone got a B- or higher.
Because he writes for
NFL.com.
there you
In fact-
go. B-, gentleman's passing
Oh,
grade.
he only gave out a single B-, it looks like. So
That was
you can
as
see-
offensive as he got.
that was as offensive as he got. You can see who's like tougher graders, like Roto World gave away some Fs, some Ds, but almost nobody gives out even Ds. Like no Ds, no Ds, no Ds. The first 5 people. There's only a D plus, 1 D plus given amongst the first 5 people listed on this.
So the Vikings got 1A.
Vikings did get a single A from Dan Wilkins of The Score. A lot of C's. C, 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 D.
Never heard of the guy.
I think Detroit only got a couple. 1, 2, yeah. A couple A minuses. But a lot of B's. A lot of like...
Few C pluses too.
Mm-hmm.
Handful of them, 4 of them. Yeah.
Anyways, I just think it's a fun little chart they do every year.
It is nice.
And it
Did
reinforces...
you see there was those kind of charts for like the player matrices for like based on all of the mock drafts, taking all that information and which player is most likely to be the pick at, and like Monroe Freeling was the guy for the Lions at 17. Like taking all of the mock drafts and doing the same thing.
Yeah. That's interesting.
One last thing. I don't know if we want to talk about it on the podcast, but like, did you see the comments from Andrew Brandt about rounds 4 through 7 in the NFL draft this year and what an NFL scout told him? He said that a year ago, this scout had told him that rounds 6 and 7 were really being impacted by NIL. He said that same scout this year going into the draft said rounds 4 through 7. Like rounds 4 through 7 are being impacted by NIL simply because a player can stay in college and make more guaranteed money based on how much they're going to make in rounds 4 through 7 of the draft.
When does that catch up? When does like the amount of overclassmen become so saturated that all of them come out eventually?
It'll be interesting to see, but like we only have like 2 years of NIL.
2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years of NIL, and there's so many players that have 2-year JUCO waivers, like Keontae Scott, right?
Right.
Like so, some of those players are finally making their way, and even a guy like him, he didn't get taken until was it the 5th round?
Yep. No, fourth
Keontae
round.
Scott fourth.
round.
It was right before Derek Moore, or right before Jimmy Rolder.
Rolder, okay. But yeah, and dude, the freaking
Sorry,
Bucks,
Miko.
The Bucks had such an awesome draft. Ruben Bain, Keontae
Bro,
Scott.
Bucks can go to hell. And Ruben Bain, like, bro,
Yeah.
screw the Bucks, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like
Morgan called it during the stream. He was like, Ruben Bain's not getting past the Bucks.
Yeah.
And like as it was happening, we were like kind of getting giddy about the fact of like, could they at least have the conversation? Which I don't think he probably would have been the pick. Like hearing how they're gushing about Blake Miller, I don't think Ruben Bain would have been the pick. But it was nice to dream for like
It's a fun part of the
literally
draft.
from like
is,
pick 9.
Yeah.
From pick 9 to pick 15. It was just fun.
yeah.
Pick 9 to pick 15 was a roller coaster, though. It was like, oh, there goes the first offensive tackle that I would have liked. Well, at least there's still a couple. Oh, there goes another one of the offensive tackles I like.
The top 8 couldn't have played out any better, and I think it raised the expectation a little bit because you're just like, no offensive tackles. There's still like 3 really good defensive players still on the board.
Caleb
What's
Downs
happening
was
right
still
now?
on the board. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Caleb Downs
Yeah.
maybe?
Yeah.
'Cause pick 3 and 4 were Jeremiah Love and Carnell Tate. I was like, pants off, let's go. Ty Simpson at 13.
Keep throwing wide receivers out there, y'all. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Who else
where
wants a wide
that's where I
receiver?
got back on the. That's when I got back on the horse of like, oh, the Lions could actually get one of these tackles. Once it was Ty Simpson at 13, I was like, okay, the Lions are absolutely getting one of these tackles.
When the Chiefs traded up to take the LSU cornerback at 6, I was like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And then there was just a string of picks where I was like, man, freaking Commanders, Sonny Styles, Cowboys do
Oh,
something
yeah.
smart and take Caleb Downs. I was like, man,
Yeah. If only
Yeah, I
what's
think-
his name's knee hadn't imploded, Lions may have had an even better shot at someone else. That sucked though, man. The Jermod
what a
McCoy
yeah,
stuff
for
was
Jermod-
brutal.
that's tough.
And shout out to the idiots who laughed in that video of Charles Robinson, like just explaining how terrible his situation was. And like, I get it's live.
What the procedure would be, and I think that
Yeah.
maybe they were laughing at the fact that like
This is insane.
that is like laughing at the insanity of it. Like
Yeah.
I can't
Oh,
believe
yeah,
that
okay, now
that
I
is
know what
a
you guys-
realistic way that they would fix this situation where they have to like pull, was it like bone and ligament from like
A different part of
his body?
Yeah. Brutal.
Yeah, that was a really weird video of like that being talked about in one tone,
Yes.
and then like everybody like, I get you probably were trying to like have the nervous like
Yes.
that's that,
Yeah,
but
but
like it did not come across that way at all.
And they were laughing for so long, and it was just
so
like
loud.
it was
That
weird.
too,
It
yeah.
was weird.
It was Nate Tice, Matt Harmon, and Charles McDonald too, where it's like, oh, those are guys. Like,
It was weird.
it was weird.
If I'll see if I can find the video here in a second. Yeah, I got it. Throw it in the chat.
And then, well, my last favorite thing about the draft was I think it was the guy who got drafted by the Saints, and his dog just really wanted to get on the couch. Did you see that video?
I did see that video.
No.
Eric showed it to me.
Let me try to see who it was. I'll throw it in the chat. But yeah, it was the Saints.
I feel like the draft needed more memeable moments like that, and I don't know if there were enough. Like there was that. There was what's his name bringing his kid on, the former Raven bringing his kid on just to say Steelers still suck.
Oh, Mark Ingram.
Mark Ingram, that's right.
Oh yeah, that was good. That's good. No, but I mean Pat McAfee being on stage, won him right off.
Okay, what happened in the third round? Because I got a bunch of texts that were like, I saw Matt Millen announce a pick, whatever. But then apparently did he go on a broadcast and start talking about something? Because Eric and I were recording a video, I think, when that happened. Because again, like Brad Holmes was like, "Hey, I'm done.
Yeah,
go to bed." And we're like, "Okay, I guess we'll start working." But did Matt Millen like jump on a broadcast and start talking? Because I feel like that's the sense I got from some people texting me.
I didn't know.
Once Brad called it a night, so did I.
Fair. Someone in chat will know. But it was wild. One, to see Matt Millen announcing a Raiders pick. Two, to see and Matt Patricia was there, like celebrating with some of the Ohio State guys. Like what kind of version of like hell this is your life am I going through right now?
Yeah, it's definitely the evil timeline. Like
Yeah.
everybody needed goatees.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Chat doesn't apparently know what we're talking about. No one said anything. Is chat frozen?
Are we frozen?
Are we frozen? Nah. All the ghosts of shitty years past, exactly. All right. I think maybe it's time
Onward
to
and
jump back
upward.
in.
Onward and upward.
Onward and upward. Oh, Healthy Sweater. I think it's 57 months. Says, yay, new players. That's right. just pressing. Okay.
Looking at everything.
Fair. All right. Put us back on this. Who got a text? You have to read it because I heard it.
I did. It's a reaction to another text. So, no.
Do the exclamation point.
Do you guys only do the standard ones, or do you add your own emojis? Do you like?
Oh, I definitely add my own.
Yeah, I do too. Because I don't know why the other ones aren't more standard. Like I'm not gonna do the haha reaction. I'm gonna do the crying, laughing emoji guy.
Because that's how funny it was.
That's how haha.
Ha ha.
No one even laughs like that.
That dog looks so stressed out.
I know, and it's a big elderly dog too. Like
you could just tell, like he's just over the night. He or she is just over the night. Like, hey, why are all these people here? Why is everybody being loud? Why can't I lay on my couch?
We have reviews, by the way.
We have a review. I think
just the one.
There's a 1-star review that I think they keep updating the review, and it's the exact same review, and it says it's only 4 days old, which it's not.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's the one that thinks I'm super negative now, which, okay. I guess I am. I don't know.
You changed, Jeremy.
I did change. At what point do you guys think I changed?
Hey, I think part of that review is awesome right now. It says, Jeremy keeps insisting on us hearing about the Lions' needs, but clearly it's best player available in the draft. And then Brad Holmes drafts needs with 3 consecutive
the team
picks.
They're covering. Yeah. Anyways. Oh, when I got the recording room, that's probably when my head got too big. I think that's probably true.
Sounds about right.
I feel like my days are
like
numbered, so I need to celebrate that room as much as I can right now.
Who are you most worried about?
I know Rich is coming for my head. Rich thinks Rich has a very high athletic belief in himself. And to be clear, he did prove it once already. He raced one of the Lions interns last year and won. He's also just young. Like, he's like,
Yeah.
listen, this is like the Lions. The Lions beat is getting younger. I'm a 40-year-old. He's like a 25-year-old or something.
Old man strength. That's what you need to lean into.
It's all about finesse. I don't need to rely on my athletic traits. I'm not going to beat him in a race. I'm not going to, jump farther than him. It's all about touch when you're kicking the ball, when you're throwing the ball, when you're catching the ball. I still got that. I can't let it to be Eric.
If there's an impromptu stream after like a random like Lions practice, just know Jeremy's gonna come on here and be distraught.
But if I win, oh man.
Dude.
I'm gonna be so obnoxious.
I'm going to mute my mic and my headphones.
We'll just be proxy. Like, we'll just be here. Like, we won't even get to talk that entire podcast.
Marshawn Lynch, Miko, and I, just here so we don't get fined.
Exactly, LJ. The game has slowed down. But I see everything. All right.
So Rich is the Ty Simpson to your Stafford?
That's right. That's right. I don't know who Sean McVay is in that analogy, but
You don't want it to be Eric, but it is.
Are we sure Eric's not Stetson Bennett in this situation? That he's just like, I'm being overlooked as.
I would be worried about your status at Pride of Detroit after saying that, Miko. I'd be worried about your job.
I missed what you said. I was reading chat.
Miko just called Eric the Stetson Bennett of Pride of Detroit.
I asked. I didn't say he was. I asked the question.
You're not allowed to ask that question.
That's the quickest way to see if he's in the chat, by the way.
I'm one of 2 colored people that are on staff.
If Eric heard you comparing him to Stetson Bennett, and I feel like he probably did, even if he's not in chat, he probably just sensed that someone said literally the most offensive thing about him.
That guy said he couldn't work a Wendy's drive-thru. That's how high it was.
Eric, who doesn't say anything publicly mean about anyone other than Stetson Bennett and Rod Wood. That's it.
Yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers.
And Aaron. Okay. Fair. Also fair.
But that's a unique group of human beings.
What do Stetson Bennett, Aaron Rodgers, and Rod Wood have in common? I know what Aaron Rodgers and Rod Wood have in common. That one's pretty easy.
Yeah. Like a really good joke is Rod Wood, Aaron Rodgers, and Stetson Bennett walk into a bar. Eric walks out of it.
I'm going to need someone to clip this entire segment and send it to Eric. Just the last 2 minutes. Clip it and ship it. All right. That was good times. Also, shout out Rod Wood. Yeah.
You might get CC'd on an email to HR if something is said to me that's out of line.
Boy, was I holding my tongue hard when I realized that in day 3 of the draft they were all wearing Rod Wood as a basketball player in high school shirts.
Yeah, I saw that notification pop up and I was like, I'm so glad I'm not watching this right now.
I need confirmation. Rod Wood from Michigan?
No, I don't think so. I don't know where he played.
Well, it says he played at Goodrich, and if it's the Goodrich that I am 20 minutes away from,
yeah, maybe
he went to the University of Michigan.
Did he really? I think it was his high school. I think it was he didn't play in college.
Well, I know Goodrich High School is 20 minutes from me, though.
A lot of people made similar jokes. RGA bought the shirts with Frank Ragnow signing bonus. Yeah, I mean, the jersey literally says Goodrich on it.
Yeah, it is the Goodrich High School that's close to me. Yeah.
How relieved were you that the shirts weren't of you, Jeremy?
Of me? Just because it's a white guy with a Jufro? Is that why? Oh, you mean... Did I just pull the reverse race card on you?
Yes, yes, you did.
Uno reverse racism.
No, it was actually in a callback to like us saying
Yeah,
that. Like,
I forgot we had that conversation. Yeah. If anything, he's gonna like wear one with Dave's face on it because they're the ones that are always kind of like sparring a little bit, like mostly in jest, but like with a twinge of like, yeah, what's up now? I drafted Nedge.
Was Dave a voice that was
No,
really big on edge or anything?
no.
Like,
If anyone, it was Wojo. Wojo was the guy who like would constantly ask Brad about Edge, to a point where like it became a running joke.
yeah. Huh. Well,
But Dave always like jumps on the grenade a little bit in press conferences.
like we'll just get to the tough questions immediately.
Yeah. He'll ask the question that everyone wants asked, but no one wants to ask. I'm upset, Dave. One of my favorite Dan Campbell quotes, just because it was so out of character. Sometimes, yeah.
Does he immediately apologize?
I would
Yeah.
say immediately. One of the quickest
Yes.
apologies that you'll probably ever see a head coach give a media person.
I don't like losing, Dave. Oh, I kind of want to pull that up. I know we were supposed to be back on the show.
I don't like losing, Dave. That's what happened. We lost. I don't like losing, Dave. And that's what happened. We lost.
Oh, we don't get the apology.
There probably should be an alert. I don't know what it would be an alert for, but like,
We can see the frustration in your face. Can
We'll
you
do
just
one
explain where it comes from? Right
I
now?
found
Is
it.
the
What
result?
would you be? Would you be frustrated right now?
I mean, is it on the call? Is it on the execution? Is it, what is
I don't like losing, Dave. And that's what happened. We lost. And that bothers me. It bothers me. I don't like having an L. So that's the frustration. I'm sorry. I don't mean it at you.
There it is. Got a little apology in there. Alert for every time someone sends one bit. If you could do it when someone unsub, that would be cool. But that's also, why would you want an alert for that? Just to call someone out? Oh, I see Ice Cecil couldn't afford another month. Sorry, you were the first person in chat. I didn't mean to call you out.
that's what we need to get to as a society. Just back to shaming people.
Shame that poor. Joke's on you. I used the free. Hey, you know what? Before we get to it, hey, did you know that if you have Amazon Prime or someone you know has Amazon Prime, maybe you share an Amazon Prime account with somebody, you can come over to Twitch, twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit, make a free account, takes about 5 minutes, link your Amazon Prime account or your Amazon Prime login, even if it's not yours, just steal it, and then you can sub to us for free. You get ad-free experience, you get channel points quicker so that you can make us do dumb stuff, and you get emotes that are fun. Show the people all the emotes that you get if you're a sub on Twitch. Light up our little chat over here with all the cool little emotes. Plus, you get to support us. That's the most important part, is that you get to support us without costing you a dime. You're not a sub. How am I not myself? You don't get to.
Immediate shame.
I know him personally, so It's fine. He also might be a sub. I don't even know. Or just make you talk about doing dumb stuff. True. And I don't even have I should probably have dashboard up. Miko's right. We should shame people more. Let's get back to bashing the Vikings. Hey. Let's keep it easy on the Vikings.
Everybody knows Jeremy's burner this year. It'll be Kyler Murray fan number 1.
I should have known when I just mentioned channel points that the channel point redemptions would come swimming in, and of course they did.
It's just always a reminder.
Boofgerts, you're lucky in that you asked for the cowboy hat, but 313 lines beat you to it. So you get refunded while I'll go find the cowboy hat, wherever that is. And I'll go find the mozzarella stick shirt, which Choco Brisket Bowl also redeemed. YouTube is free, right, but you don't get to support us on YouTube. You get the ad we get the ad revenue, which is fine. And don't get me wrong, it's something. If you're watching, we appreciate it. But if you want to give us just a little more. But
please,
if you feel that way about Amazon, I'm also not going to hate on you. What'd you say?
Please, sir, can I have some more?
Please, sir.
Hat in hand.
Where is that? Oh, I see it.
Do the Pistons win tonight, Miko?
Does Jalen Duren show up?
Can Jalen Duren let go of Angel Reese?
Listen,
There's no other explanation, Miko. There's no other explanation.
I want to believe that they're still going to win this series, but if they lose tonight, like, this is going to go down as like one of the worst collapses that I could think of from a Pistons team. Because like everybody's healthy. Like you had the best record in the East. Cade's playing, outside of one of those games, Cade's been playing out of his mind. And it's really just like you look at Jalen Duren, it's just like, dude, can you get 15 and 10, please?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm just worried that this is, and it's funny though, because the Pistons were the 1 seed and the Magic were the 8 seed in 2003. And that was that year that Orlando went up 3-1 and then the Pistons came back and won at 4-3.
Oh, you mean that can happen? Because I heard tonight was a must-win game.
For this team, it is. I'm sorry, for this team, like this team just...
I hate the term. I hate it so much.
Like, on one hand, like, they're still very young and there's still a lot that they have to learn and, like, prove, but it's just like, come on, guys.
I think they're going to win tonight. I think they will.
By a lot?
No, it's on the road.
That's fair.
What's Harry's concern level at now? Have you spoken to him since they've gone down 2-1?
I haven't gotten a number, but it's a lot higher, obviously.
It was just so frustrating on that day 3 of the draft. Like, I know that you were probably all the way in on the draft and focused on that, but like
it was on in the room.
They just battled their way all the way back and took that lead, and it was like, they did it. What a statement. What a statement win. And then it was 105-104, and then it finished 113-105. And I was like, what happened over the final 2 minutes? You battled all your way back. Ugh.
Yeah. Darth Tater, thank you for the 31 months. And Jorge Mayans, thank you for subscribing over on YouTube. All right. Are we ready? That was a long break.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yep. Okay.
And welcome back to the Pride of Detroit PODcast. Here in segment 2, we are going to continue recapping and reacting to some of the picks that the Lions made in the 2026 NFL Draft. We've already talked about offensive tackle Blake Miller that the Lions took in the first round, as well as defensive end Derek Moore, who the Lions took in the second round. The Lions did not have a third-round pick this year, obviously due to them trading up for Isaac TeSlaa last year. So the Lions didn't get another pick until pick 118 in the fourth round, and I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's a part of me that's a little salty about this pick, not because of who the Lions picked, but because of who went 2 picks earlier. So, Jeremy, what was your reaction to Jimmy Rolder being picked, linebacker out of Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have much of a reaction on draft night because, to be quite honest, despite being a Michigan fan, I wasn't all that familiar with Jimmy Rolder's game, other than the fact that he seemingly was the only guy playing football in Michigan State this year. I ended up finding a tweet of mine where I tweeted about that game. Like, he's the only guy that's allowed to celebrate tonight. Everyone else needs to be ashamed of this football game. But I'm going to be quite honest. I don't love his tape. I've spent a couple days looking at his tape. I don't quite love it. I don't quite see the vision of him as a defender. Obviously, he's only a 1-year starter, so I don't want to be too hard on the guy and give him room to grow and learn the position more and get more experience. I get the tenacity. I get he's a football player, which Brad Holmes repeated about 8 times during his press conference. But linebacker was a huge need, but I think we all agreed we wanted a guy who had kind of the finesse to his game that Alex Anzalone had, the coverage abilities, I guess the being able to play within your assignment, things like that. And again, first year starter. I don't want to like bury the guy and say he's got no chance. I'm just saying I didn't like the tape of last year. In fact, the weirdest part about his tape is that I liked it early in the season when he was on the edge. I liked him as an edge setter on the edge. I liked him as a run defender on the edge. I liked him as a pass rusher a little bit on the edge. And part of me thinks, even though everyone has this guy pegged as like a will, I'm kind of a little bit more curious about his potential as a Sam. And I know that's not what he did in Michigan for the most of the year, because they eventually just moved him to more off-ball stuff. But and honestly, Brad even mentioned it himself. He said, quote, he could actually set edges if you put him on the edge. And we did see a little bit of that at the beginning of the year. So I don't know. I'm not. Here's the thing. We just got done talking about how, Andrew Brandt, was it Andrew Brandt or Gil Brandt?
Andrew Brandt.
Was saying how this year's draft class really bad beyond the 4th round because of some of the NIL stuff. And so if you pick Jimmy Rolder and he's just a full-time special teamer for you for 8 years, that's fine. That's fine. And I can see that path. But for those thinking that Jimmy Rolder is like going to compete for a starting job, I don't think that's happening this year. Maybe it's something he can develop to in time as he gets more reps at the linebacker position. But I'm a little bit lower on this pick than some of the other ones.
Ryan, how about you?
I think the special team stuff that you bring up, Jeremy, is important because, as mentioned in the piece, Dane Brugler's draft guide, quote, screams down the field with violence on special teams coverage.
Yeah.
The glowing character feedback from the Michigan staff, no selfish to him. He's a coach pleaser and does what is asked. I think in all of the weaknesses that you can gather from just reading about Rolder, he's too eager. He has to let things he needs to see the game slower, right? And we saw that with Jack Campbell. And I mean, not even comparing, where Jack Campbell was in his rookie season to where Jimmy Rolder will come in his rookie season. But even that took time for that to happen with Jack, right? I think you can say that maybe it took 2 full seasons. And then in this past year, we've really seen who Jack Campbell is in terms of his ceiling. I think this is going to take time with Rolder. I think he's more of a developmental guy, obviously. But when, again, you see all the weaknesses pointed out, still developing pre-snap confidence and communication, I would hope that having a defensive coordinator like Kelvin Shepard, who has a linebackers background, Sean Dion Hamilton, who did a really good job with the linebackers room the past season, you would hope that, again, there is that environment where you can bet on a guy with traits, a bet on a guy with athleticism, bet on a guy who I think it's really interesting, Jeremy, that you bring up maybe the Sam potential that he might have because of his ability to set the edge. That's all intriguing enough to me to say make him the pick. And the only reason I say that though, Miko, is because Keontae Scott was not on the board. I'm so sorry. I didn't want to bring it up, as somebody had to rip off the Band-Aid.
No, I'm glad you said it, because I if people didn't know, that was the pick that I was talking about in terms of like, once Keontae Scott was off the board, I mentally checked out. I was like, I don't care. whoever. But like Jimmy Rolder is, to me, I'm kind of in the same boat as you though, Jeremy, where like I'm a little underwhelmed, because while this is a position that they absolutely needed to address with a linebacker, Kyle Lewis was still on the board at that time.
Yeah.
Caleb Alarms-Orr was also still on the board at the time. Bryce Whitaker was on the board. Guys that were all ranked a little bit higher ahead of him. And again, consensus boards aren't everything, but when you talk about guys that, those three guys that I just mentioned, like those were all kind of considered as wills. Maybe Caleb Alarms-Orr, not so much. He was more considered like an athlete type. But it is a little interesting that the Lions went this direction instead of with either of those guys. And I mean, Kyle Lewis is a little bit of a smaller frame, so I can kind of understand you kind of already have that in Malcolm, and we've already kind of seen the limitations of Malcolm being a smaller linebacker trying to play the will position. So this is a pick that like I do kind of have to look at it strictly through the special teams lens, where it's like, if he's a good special teamer, if he can go out there and immediately contribute on punt coverage or kick coverage, then like maybe that's enough to start out, and maybe you start to round out the rest of his game. But for me, as someone who wasn't very high on Monroe Freeling being the pick at 17 because of limited starts, it's hard for me to really think highly of this pick, considering Jimmy Rolder only had 11.
Yeah. I will say, like, I'm fully on board with him as a full-time special teamer doing everything, because I don't know if you guys have seen kind of the somewhat viral clip of him on kick coverage where he runs I think it looks like a wide receiver, like from the hash mark, and the hash mark in college is like super wide, all the way to the middle where the kick returner is, and just basically shoves him into the kicker. It's an incredible clip. I think I put it in my 5 things to know about Jimmy Rolder on Pride of Detroit if you want to go find it. I think he has all the potential in the world as a special teamer. And like I said, if that's all you get out of this 4th round pick, that's fine. If we want to talk ceiling talk, like, yeah, I still think he has a pretty high ceiling because of all the athletic traits that he has, because of the will and character that he has. I just think his play as a linebacker isn't where it needs to be right now in order to reliably challenge for a starting spot, or even, be the first guy off, off the bench there. And so it makes you wonder about the linebacker depth on this team. If there is, maybe one concern, it's there because you have Jack Campbell and a group of guys. Derek Barnes is probably going to be a starter, and I think we all assumed he was going to be a starter, but I think maybe there was hope that they'd add some more competition there. I don't know what you guys think about why can't I think of his name? The LSU guy.
Oh, Damone Clark.
Damone Clark, thank you. But he's almost in line to start right now at this point if they're going a 3 linebacker set. Malcolm obviously is in that conversation as well, but I don't know. I expected a little bit more of an investment in the linebacker position, and maybe there is still to come, right? Like there's going to be free agents out there. They're not just going to go into training camp with 6 of them, but for a 4th round pick for the first linebacker selected in this draft, I was hoping for a little bit more defensive potential. And like I said, I understand the board was what it was at that point, and this class is what it is, but I'm not quite as optimistic about his defensive outlook as I am his special teams.
Yeah. I think for me, this is where, like, this is the first below average grade I would probably have to give to a player. Like, I would probably give this a C-. Just once again, looking at some of the other players where I felt like they probably would be maybe better fits and maybe more instant contributors on defense. And I think a lot of those guys were also, looking at Eric's draft board, like a lot of those guys that I kind of mentioned earlier were also still pegged as like, hey, they can contribute on special teams too. So it wasn't like that's the one ringing endorsement of Jimmy Rolder is that like, well, he's a good special teamer. Like a lot of these guys were kind of seen in that same mold. So that's where I kind of where lean my grade towards that way. Ryan, what about you?
I think two things for me when it comes to putting a grade on this is one, on day 2 in round 2, you were willing to trade a 4th round pick to move up and get Derek Moore. I just wonder, you're at pick 118. You can't dip into your later draft capital on day 3 to move up and maybe get another guy at a position that maybe you need a little bit more depth at. And I know you talked about, there's not a ton there in the linebacker position, but I just looked it up. Zach Cunningham was signed on May 27th. So there's still plenty of time to continue to add to that room. Do I like him as a special teamer this year? Yes. Do I like some of his traits? Yes. Like you can see where maybe this could go, but it really requires you to squint, I think. And for that reason, I'd probably give it a C+, just because one, you didn't trade to get him. So there's at least that, but you get a guy who can contribute on special teams, but you just wonder was there another place that maybe you could have improved your depth? Maybe like a tight end in this spot. Like I think a tight end would have been a good pick. I think maybe
the problem though with tight end is like there was a huge run of them on the 3rd round. Like that to me why it was a little bit surprising to see them give up on the 3rd round.
Give them up on day 2. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, well, if you wanted a tight end, and they don't need one this year, it's obviously more of a long-term need than a short-term need. But I guess, maybe they had just decided, like, we are not digging into 2027 draft capital, or we are not parting with any more draft picks in general, other than, well, they would part ways with one more, but that wouldn't have gotten them into the 3rd round.
Yeah, but I also think like there weren't. I think there was maybe like one center that had come off the board prior to this, or maybe 2. Connor Lew was still there. Sam Hecht was still there. So like, again, like maybe opportunities to maybe get depth at some other positions, but I don't completely hate the pick just because, like I said, maybe if he does get the time to develop, and at least the Lions have the opportunity where like the onus isn't on he needs to start, right? Yeah. Like he needs to be a contributor because they have Rodrigo, Miko, or they can go into more nickel sets rather than being in so much base.
Yeah, and I'll split the difference and give it a C. I know I sound like I'm hard on the guy, but at the same time, it is a mid to I guess it's a mid 4th round pick, and in general, I think the expectations, especially for just the rookie season for most 4th round picks, is just special team rules, maybe just a tad defense mixed in there. I will say this, and Brad Holmes mentioned this to Dan Miller. It sounded like they had him kind of in the same bucket as Keith Abney. They just didn't expect Keith Abney to be there, and I think they probably viewed linebacker as a bigger need. And so if those guys are both in the same bucket, you can play the game that we like to play on draft night, which is let's just pretend Keith Abney was the 4th round pick and Jimmy Rolder was the 5th round pick, and suddenly I feel better about both picks.
Yeah, it's just the process in getting there, right? It's like I would rather some like young cornerback potential Miko than a linebacker that I wonder if it's ever going to all come to fruition on.
I'd rather play the game where we traded one of those 5th round picks to go up 2 picks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the game I'm going to play in my head for a while.
Yeah.
But Jeremy, you bring up Keith Abney as the Lions' 5th round pick. And I think this is the pick that is kind of being seen across the board, not even just for the Lions, but across like the NFL as like one of the better value picks that a team was able to make, with the Lions being able to get him as a 5th round in the 5th round. A lot of people saw him as like a 3rd round talent, and instead the Lions are able to add to their secondary room. I think it's a little interesting. It makes the conversation of who's going to play nickel much more interesting, considering all the talent that the Lions have brought. But I think at the end of the day, much like a lot of this draft class, like the Lions still did at least raise the floor with this addition.
Listen, all the like lack of potential I have in Rolder, I see all of the potential in Abney. Like, I'm not going to say he's going to win the nickel job, but he could have it by the end of the year. He could have it by next year. There's some people that had him as a 2nd round pick. Like, he was a guy that went to some people 3 rounds later than he should have. And that doesn't mean he's 3 rounds better than where he was taken. It doesn't mean that all 32 general managers missed 3 straight rounds in a row. But it's very easy to see the fit in terms of how he plays the game, which is very grabby. So if you don't like illegal contact penalties, you're not going to like this preseason, I don't think. But physical guy. And what I find really interesting is they played a lot of nickel at Arizona State. They played a lot of off ball at Arizona State. But in a lot of times when they had pretty much everyone else playing off the ball, but one person playing like press man coverage, it was Keith Abney. They were the guy. That was the guy that they trusted to line up toe to toe on the boundary with a tall receiver, and he battled with it. Like, was he great at it? Was he perfect at it? No, but he has the tenacity. He has the want. He has the physicalness to do it. And yeah, he's going to get beat on a couple double moves every now and then. Yes, he's going to get a penalty for being a little bit too grabby, but I think with corner, he just has such a good corner mentality that if you can just fill in the blanks and teach him to be a little bit less grabby in the same way that they kind of had to with Terrion, I think he can be a really solid player that can be your next Amik. I do think that's his ceiling is Amik Robertson. And if you can get that in the 5th round, a lot cheaper than it would have cost to get Amik back in Detroit, like, that's how you work the draft. That is how you continue to build and sustain a winner. So I'm all over this pick. Like, I'm going to spoil it right now. Like, this is an A-, which I don't ever really give out. I mean, I don't really give grades at all, but for a day 3 pick, an A-, you have to kind of knock it out of the ballpark. And I think they did with Keith.
Ryan, how about you?
You look at the beast. He was Dane Brugler's CB9. He had a 2nd to 3rd round grade on him, 61 overall in terms of the prospects in the draft pool. And I find it really interesting that, like, he only had 3 weaknesses that were listed for Abney, and one of them was lacks ideal height and length for the position, where you know that's not an issue for Brad Holmes, because like one of his strengths is, plays with a competitive temperament that you can't coach. And, he just has like that competitive fire in all areas that we saw with Amik Robertson, right? Like, if you have that dog in you, like, you're going to fit right in the secondary. So I really like the pick. I really like the upside. I like the idea that while you see the natural transition for him in the NFL being to the nickel spot, I'm not going to bet against the guy playing outside corner because of the competitive fieriness that he has. We saw Amik, Miko, that was one of the things we loved about Amik, is that, yes, you can pencil him in as the nickel, but in a pinch, week 18, Justin Jefferson up for the task because he's a competitor. So if he has those traits and if he has some of the ball skills, that was something that we all wanted too, that we talked about in the pre-draft process, was the Lions need playmakers. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about a guy who's a playmaker, Keith Abney, 12 passes defended in 2025, and a couple of interceptions to go with it. So, and a couple of forced fumbles. So again, a guy who's not afraid to mix it up and get physical in the ground game. Great pick. Love this. I mean, there's another pick that we're going to get to, but this might be the most interesting camp battle to me, is nickel cornerback. There's Ennis Rakestraw. There's Roger McCreary. There's Christian Izien maybe. Yeah. And now you throw Abney into the mix, the cream will rise to the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved the fact that the one thing that I was hearing from so many people about this pick was like, man, he could be a Amik Robertson replacement. Like, and that got me excited, because losing Amik to me was a bigger deal than I think probably to some people, just because of that competitive firiness. Like, I think you do need at least 1 or 2 guys that are kind of like that, whether they're on the outside or they play the nickel spot. Like, you need a guy that's like literally just line them up the opposite side of me and like let me do what I do best. I think the thing that's going to be tough, and I think we all kind of know this about Abney, is that like, yeah, it's going to be like, how competitive is he going to be able to be at this level? And I think it's one of the things, if I could get on a small soapbox, that I hate the most about the collegiate game, is that they let them get away with so much that once they come to the league, it is like almost like a different game that they have to learn. in terms of how to cover guys because you've allowed them to be physical on a different plane for like 3 or 4 years in the college level. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly he adapts. Like you said, Jeremy, like it was something that they've had to kind of coach out of Terry on because like, hey, they're not going to let you be that grabby in the pros, especially when you're going up against, star receivers and things like that. So I'm excited about this pick. I'm excited for what this means for the defense. I'm also a little curious about what it means for the defense because Abney is being profiled more as like a zone type of corner. Do either of you think that we see the Lions play more zone this upcoming year, or do you think they still kind of hold true to a lot of the principles that they've had in seasons past?
I don't think they're changing. And honestly, I think Abney can hold his own as a man corner. And man is a little bit different on the outside than it is in the nickel, right? Like you can use some of the athleticism that he has to maybe make up for some of the size that he lacks. I don't think they're. To me, I think what's more interesting in terms of what it might impact for the defense is like they go out and get a linebacker who I don't think can win the will spot, and then immediately after get a nickel corner, and so it's like, oh, are we just playing more nickel like that? I'm cool with that, because yeah, again, we just got done talking about how thin that linebacker room is, but I don't know, it's possible. I'm sure they're going to have everything on the table in terms of man versus zone, and they still already play a lot of zone, but is that number going to tilt a little bit more towards even? I mean, maybe, but I guess actually if it tilted more towards even, that would be more man, but you know what I mean. I don't know. I don't think this pick would dictate that. And again, I do think there's a little bit more potential as a man corner than some of his profile reads. In fact, when I talked to Abney at the combine, that was something like he was very adamant about. It was like, hey, I know all these scouting reports has me as a zone guy, but like one of the things I take pride in is my man coverage. One of the things I take pride in is my run defense. And it was at that moment you were like, oh, I need to pay attention to you.
Go up.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so I guess the last question there is, as you mentioned, you want to swap the picks. You want to swap where Rolder got taken with where Abney got taken. I just think to put a grade on this too, like I think I would just grade this an A because I see a path to him being a defensive starter in 2026. And I don't really see that with Rolder. I think that he is a project, whereas Abney comes more ready out of the box and he can play at a spot that you see a lot of nickel cornerbacks in the NFL. I think from year to year, you'll see a rookie in there at some point. Because remember, nickel cornerbacks are a dime a dozen. So just for that alone, Miko, I think getting this guy the value, the inside, the outside capabilities, maybe the fact that he can start, I'll give this an A. And this is probably the second best value pick for the Detroit Lions in terms of who could impact their 2026 team the most from this draft class.
The next pick that we have to talk about is their other 5th round pick. The Lions ended up trading picks 181 and 213 to go up to 168 with the Buffalo Bills. And with this pick, they took wide receiver Kendrick Law out of Kentucky. Once again, this is a situation, Jeremy, where when the Lions made a trade, I was very curious on like what could they possibly be looking for at this point. I'm not gonna lie and say that wide receiver was nowhere on my bingo card. But after actually talking to Eric earlier today about, Kendrick Law, like I'm actually a little more interested in what this could potentially mean in terms of the competition at both punt returner and just like the wide receiver 5 spot in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the mind automatically goes, right? It's like, okay, what does this mean for Dominic Lovett? And the answer is probably nothing good. And I can understand why some people are frustrated. Why are you using a 5th and a 6th round pick to make, a guy who didn't play at all redundant, Dominic Lovett? It's a fair argument to make, but you are this late in the draft. This is late 5th round at this point. And again, when you're this late in the draft, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about special teams. And with him, he not only has kick returner experience, he has gunner experience. Brad Holmes specifically mentioned gunner. That was a position that I think the Lions couldn't really find a clear answer for last year. They have Khalil Dorsey. They like Khalil Dorsey in that role, but he was on and off the field with injury, and then that other spot was kind of up for grabs, and no one really ever grabbed it. So I watched a little bit of his tape today, and man, they really like to use him in pre-snap motion. They really like to use him as a gadget at Kentucky. Obviously, Brad saw some potential all the way back going to his Alabama days, even though the stat sheet wasn't as good as it was. I think maybe there's some long-term potential on offense, but to me, this pick is more returner, gunner, which are two roles on this team that this team values. So I'm not mad at it. But if you're a fan of Dominic Lovett, I would imagine probably not a fan of this pick.
I think when it comes to the return game, what I find interesting is that you have that mix of guys with Lovett, Greg Dortch, and now with Kendrick Law.
Sure.
And looking at Dortch's, just what he's done in the NFL, the familiarity with Drew Petzing, you want to assume that he has the leg up on both of these guys, be it Lovett or Kendrick Law. But you just look at the athletic comparison between these three guys, and Kendrick Law he's the opposite of strike through that height, weight, speed. Like, he is a guy who scored very highly in his RAS score. You look at that Kentucky team last year too, brutal on offense. They averaged 23 points a game. They were 101st out of 136 FBS teams. Kendrick Law led the team with 53 catches and 540 yards. He was their guy on offense when it came. The next guy, Hardly Gilmore the fourth, played 12 games and had 28 catches for 313 yards. Like, a really bad Kentucky offense.
And they just love to run the ball too.
Yeah, for sure. So, like,
that's
well,
I was going to say the run game is maybe why you make this pick, because I'm assuming this is part of what makes you excited, Miko, because Eric was the one that put me on to Kendrick Law's blocking game.
Yeah, it was that. It was the combination of just the plays that he makes in the blocking game, in addition to, obviously, with Drew Petzing coming here, we're not sure how creative the play calling will be. But I think if you're looking to still have those elements of some of those gadget plays, I do kind of wonder, like, what do you guys think about the idea of some of those plays that they like to run for Saint, where specifically they have him in the backfield and they're kind of playing him a little bit as a running back, and, like, whether it's, short flare outs or giving him the ball to run in the middle. At this point in time, with the amount of money that you have invested in Saint, like, would it not be better served to give it to a guy that's wide receiver 5 and, like, has a very specific skill set? And you're just like, listen, when we run these types of plays, we're not going to put our star receiver in harm's way anymore for these types of plays, because we know how much we need him. We're just going to use the gadget guy from now on.
I mean, it's possible. It was something that I noticed watching the film. Like, they put him in pre-snap motion a lot, and some of that is to just utilize his natural speed in terms of getting an advantage on his route. But a lot of times it was kind of that inline motion that we saw that they use with Amon-Ra, but they're just throwing him, like, right in the middle of the line or right on the edge to be a lead blocker. And it's something he can do, and it's something he has the tenacity for, and I think that's probably why you saw the trade up. And I'm kind of shocked that Brad didn't mention his blocking in his press conference, because he mentioned it in JMO's. Remember, like, that was one of the first things he mentioned about JMO. I'm surprised he didn't mention about Kendrick Law, because he is a willing and active blocker. I mean, that seems like over specializing things to be like, all right, we need our gadget blocker for this play, and maybe you're tipping your hand a little bit, but obviously you can work off that and work off some other gadget plays. But I'm not discounting his ability to eventually grow into some sort of role, and Brad was also adamant that he's more than a gadget guy, right? Like, we think there's some downfield threats. We feel like maybe there's some things on the route tree that he can develop into. I just think, when you're talking about 2026, I think special teams, and then we'll see.
Yeah. So for this pick, Ryan, I'd probably give this like a C+. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily expecting them to go receiver, but I do like some of, like, the intangibles and some of the potential things that this could, like, turn into. But I mean, right now it is hard to understand exactly where he's going to carve a role at. Like you said, like, there's potential for it to be on special teams in terms of, like, a gunner and potentially even maybe a kick returner. But with there being so much competition ahead of him, how likely is that to materialize in his rookie season?
Yeah. Again, something that you might have to squint to see, but like I also want to bet on the guy with the 9.6 RAS. And I know he didn't do the agility testing, but like the explosion score, you look at Cleef Raymond, like a little bit slower in terms of like 40 and 10-yard split, 20-yard split, but I mean, he's not the biggest guy, but like 21 reps on the bench press. That scored him at a 9.64 relative to other wide receivers. And then like a 42-inch vertical for a guy who's 5'10", like, okay, yeah, sign me up. Like that guy will be fun to, I just want to see where he hits. Right. And because he's so much more athletic than Dortch is 5'7". Like that's a big difference between 5'10" and 5'7". And looking at the contract that he got, Dortch got like just over $1 million guaranteed. You want to assume that he's going to be on the roster, but like if Kendrick Law plays his pants off, like okay, like just be the fast guy. Like if you're the eye candy, if you're the, you're the Khalif Raymond role, there's room for that, like on this roster to be had. And we assume that it might be Greg Dortch, but could it be Kendrick Law? I'm not going to write it off completely.
We need to get you a shirt that says HWS, but it's in bold, it's in italics, it's underlined. You're just excited about the height, weight, speed guys.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that guy.
I think Eric made a fantastic point on our Pride of Detroit Direct video, so I'm just going to steal his take when it comes to this pick. Remember what happened when this team cut down to 53 players last year? They didn't. They cut down to 50.
Because the standard is the standard.
Because the standard is the standard, and because like the very bottom of this roster, middle class, when they have 90, was not good enough. They needed to add competition to those guys, and I would very much put a guy like, Dominic Lovett as in that category. It's not good enough. So when you get to the 5th and 6th and 7th round of this draft, if you want to add competition to those spots to make the bottom of your roster better, do it. Go ahead. Add competition. Yes. And maybe it lights a fire under Dominic, and maybe he's fine, and maybe that knocks him off the roster. And maybe your 5th round pick doesn't make the roster, but you're adding competition. You're trying to get the depth of that team that are right on the edge of 53 and practice squad. You're trying to create competition there. And I like it. I like the idea of it. And that kind of sold me on this pick more than I thought I was going to feel about the pick. So I'm right around like a B, maybe a B minus.
Yeah, I would say I probably would bump my grade up to a B minus because I think Eric also told me that his nickname at one point in time in college was like Baby Debo in regards to Deebo Samuel. So like if you get that quality of a player potentially, I'd be willing to bump my grade up to a B minus. Jumping down to the 6th round, the Lions add to their defensive line once again with Skylar Gill Howard, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M at pick 205. This is a guy, Jeremy, that we talked about it with Blake Miller in terms of just being like a great culture fit. I think you talked about it before we even went on, but like this is a guy that I know. Listen, there's obviously going to be a lot of talk about what he's going to do on the field, but you personally just you love his story that's going to come along with this player.
I'm trying to get his schools right because we bungled it on PODD. Is it North Iowa is where he started?
Upper Iowa.
Upper Iowa, that's right. He started at some place called Upper Iowa.
Redshirted, walk on.
Yes. Decided he didn't want to play D3 or whatever that was. And then got like no offers. And he's like, all right, I'm going to work for FedEx. I'm going to go coach what's track, I think it was. And then on the very last day of potential offers, Northern Illinois gives him a walk-on offer. Like, doesn't give him a scholarship, gives him a walk-on option. He takes it. He eventually just starts balling out for Northern Illinois in a rotational role. Like, he only started one game in Northern Illinois, but by 2024, 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 52 tackles. And at that point, the D1, the big schools come calling. Like I forgot how many offers there were, but it was like a ton. And he ends up just, playing for Texas Tech. Unfortunately, he suffers an injury, but like the grit it just takes to almost quit entirely and then just work your way up from every level and keep going and keep going. And his story about how his grandfather was a Lions fan, and when he was in his draft room, there was only one hat, and it was a Detroit Lions hat. It was his grandfather's Detroit Lions hat. And then like you hear him talk about how excited and thankful he is and every step of the way, and then you turn on the tape and it's everything you'd want it to be from an effort standpoint. It's a guy who's I didn't even mention the craziest part about his story, which was he was a linebacker and put on 50 pounds in 3 months to become a defensive tackle. Like, that sort of willingness to just do whatever to play the game that you love is crazy. And then when he's out on the field, you see it. I compared him to Ahmed Hassanin in terms of just like his determination, his grit. He is chasing quarterbacks down from 20 yards behind the play. He is never giving up. And listen, I'm not discounting him from eventually being a contributor either. Obviously, he's still relatively new to the position, having only started to play on the defensive line in 2022 at Northern Illinois. But given that that 2022 season he didn't play much, given that in 2023 still kind of a limited role and still only increasing, there's a lot of potential to be had. A little bit of like a weird tweener. Don't know if he's a 3-tech or a 4-eye or a 5, but I don't know, man. Like, I am such a big fan of the person right now that I'm willing to like take the homer take here and say I'm not going to count a guy like this out because of all the determination he's already shown in his career.
Yeah, he ends up falling in that weird bucket now with like Mekhi Wingo.
Yeah,
and the guy we're about to talk about next. Like, there's some really interesting like undersized players, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like Mekhi Wingo was the first like undersized defensive tackle that Brad Holmes drafted. And it's funny, coincidental, ironic, whatever you want to call it. But, the guy who got a lot of the credit for Aaron Donald and the undersized defensive tackle. And there's been some of those players along the way. There's been the Kalijah Cansey. There's been, some other players that, here's Brad's opportunity to take an undersized defensive tackle. And he's waited until later rounds to do it now with Mekhi. Now with Skylar Gill-Howard, like Jeremy hit on, you got to love the story. Much like Ahmed Hassanin, you got to love the passion. You got to love that he's going to bring it. He is an older player. He's going to be 24 by the time the season starts. But just see if that passion takes you to a spot on the roster. And if it doesn't, this seems like a guy who might be able to stick around in the practice squad. And if you get him some more reps and you get him some more time on the roster, Miko, and time on task, maybe he can develop into something.
Yeah, I think that's where once you get to like this point in the draft, I mean, honestly, from like the fifth round on, you're kind of looking at guys where it's just like, do they have the intangibles that you need from a roster standpoint to either like invest heavily in that development. And like you said, at worst case scenario, they end up on the practice squad and you just have more time to kind of develop them into contributing players. And when it comes down to Gil Howard, like that's kind of what I like about this. Like, you went and you found a guy at a position that you do need more depth at. And ideally he plays a style that is very unique from the other defensive tackles that you've had. Like, they've primarily gone out for some of their projects, and it's been a lot of like Broderick Martin was kind of still more so run first, and a lot of their other defensive tackles have been a lot of run first guys. To go out there and get a guy like Skylar Gill-Howard, who is much more kind of adept at getting to the passer and being much more violent in his game, like I kind of like that potential, because those are the types of guys that I think, like, you put them in those situations where you continue to kind of refine their game, continue to develop the different technique and aspects of it. And if they bring the hard work, like you said, Jeremy, maybe it may take a couple seasons or it may take a season or two, but maybe that guy eventually develops into one of your rotational guys that you can bring in on third down. And now you have someone that can kind of push the pocket from the middle.
And I'll say this about some of the limited tape that I've watched him play. I know this has become a little bit of like a draft cliche, but you can see the wrestling background in his film too. You can see some of the linebacker background in his film too. Like, he has active hands. He's not going to give up on a rep even if you stop him initially. And you can see him like tug a dude to the ground who he might have another 50 pounds on him. So I don't know. I'm trying to maintain a level head with the kid, but he's someone that I'm very excited about.
Derek Moore, also with
Yeah.
a wrestling background, by the way. And we didn't talk about Keith Abney's roller skating championship and how the COVID pandemic may have changed his career trajectory. Because like
I mean, you
COVID
start
shut
adding
down
those
roller
types of
skating
things.
rinks, Miko. Like you could have the
start adding those
Red
types of
Wings
things,
might get a
easily
bottom
become
six
A+.
forward.
By the way, everyone check out keithabney.com, which is still up. It's like his childhood website from when he was 11 years old, and it's awesome. It's very much a website. I guess it's only 13 years old, but it looks like it's a 25-year-old website.
It does. This is awesome. All right.
One thing I did want to talk about when it comes down to Skylar Gill Howard is with him, like Jeremy, you pointing out him adding 50 pounds in an offseason to go from linebacker to defensive tackle. How confident that he could put away 100 nuggets in like a live?
It's a great question.
I'm just curious.
Zero doubt. Zero doubt.
Ryan, you might have a challenge on your hand.
I already have a challenge on my hand. It's called 100 chicken nuggets.
Well, let's get to the Lions' final pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, and that ended up being Tyree West, defensive end out of Tennessee. This is a guy that might be a bit of a tweener, right? In terms of is he more of a defensive tackle? Is he more of an edge? But I think kind of falls in that same bucket of Skylar Gill Howard in the sense that like you're probably just getting another guy that you're hoping that you can develop into some type of depth role at some point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think pie in the sky fantasy, he becomes everything that you want Levi Onwuzurike to be. This kind of like 4-eye, 5-tech pass rusher type of guy. I mean, he has a relatively good amount of production in college, generally speaking, in a weird rotation role at Tennessee. He's like, he started like 4 games or something, despite being there for 4 years. So, you know, I think I don't want to bring ceiling talk into here, but you know, I'm not expecting a ton from the guy, but that's what his role would be if he can reach his full potential. Is be that 4-eye pass rusher type, but behind Levi or maybe in front of Levi if he doesn't stick around beyond this year. There's some intriguing things on tape, no doubt, but I think at this point you're kind of expecting him to probably make it to the practice squad and see what you can get out of a year or two of development there.
Yeah, Ryan, anything from you that stands out about Tyree West?
80-inch wingspan. That's interesting. That's very interesting for a guy who is barely
6'2"?
barely 6'2". Like, oh,
His
okay,
body shape
yeah.
is weird.
Yeah, so like, I don't know. Let's just see if it works.
Really interesting, like athletic profile too, right? Like 4'8", 40-yard dash, 33-inch vertical, 9.3 bar jump, like a decent athlete at the same time. So like at the very least, you're getting someone that you can kind of, like you said, hopefully develop into some sort of reserve role down the line. Something that he obviously was very comfortable with while in his time at Tennessee. So yeah, I think that's a pretty decent ceiling, like to kind of like have on him at this point in his career.
And Jeremy made this point when he was kind of looking over the RAS article that I posted today, but like Kent ran his as a defensive end. I mean, he's listed as a defensive end in the beast, but like when you move him to defensive tackle, his RAS score that like admittedly isn't like very impressive because it's a 4.65, like jumps to, what was it, Jeremy, like a
7.8 or something?
7.42, I think.
Okay, yeah. Decent enough,
but decent with an 80-inch wingspan. I want to see what that looks like.
Right. And honestly, like he's battling kind of for Tyler Lacey's spot. So like there is a path for him to make the 53-man roster. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not automatically just pushing him to the practice squad. It's just that's a very niche role on this team, and we don't even know if it's literally going to exist. We don't know what the defense is necessarily going to look like. And I mean, he could certainly carve out a role on special teams. The Lions actually use defensive linemen on the kickoff. Like, those are kind of the guys right in the middle of the kickoff. We've seen them use some of those guys. I kind of think Skylar Gill Howard is kind of the same thing, where like some of that athleticism, some of that motor can be very valuable on the kickoff. So if he can carve out a role there, then yeah, I think there's a shot there.
Well, guys, that's pretty much going to do it for the 2026 NFL Draft Class. Any final thoughts? Any final takeaways from just the group of guys that Brad and staff were able to kind of put together this year? Like Jeremy, I think you kind of said it. I can't remember if you said it at the beginning of the podcast or during the break, but like this is like one of those drafts where it just like it felt solid. Like it maybe doesn't, isn't going to get national attention, but like in terms of what the Lions needed and the areas that they needed to address, like it kind of was like a check mark across the board.
Yeah, on Pride of Detroit Direct, I called it a crowd pleaser. You got your edge rusher finally. You took down your major needs at the top of the draft. You invested a little bit more in pass rush than run defense, which is something that I think a lot of fans had been pushing for. And you didn't take any big swings. And I mean that in a positive way, right? There wasn't any major trades up. There weren't any like huge reaches. You could argue the first few picks were reaches compared to consensus big boards, but you're talking about like 10 to 15 to 20 pick reaches rather than like your Broderick Martin 150 pick reach. And so to me, I think I personally welcomed it a little bit, a less riskier draft class. I think he had made some maybe miscues with some of the risks he's taken on before. I don't think I can go this entire podcast without mentioning that he still hasn't traded down in now 3 straight drafts. And I'd like that to change at some point. But it's hard for me to complain about this draft class in general because I do think he hit on the major needs. He didn't take anything that felt too ridiculous. And, got some good gritty players in the meantime so that that there's no risk of this, this culture taking a hit despite, the last year and a half not going as they wanted.
Yeah. Ryan, how about you? Any major takeaways from this draft class?
You can dream big, Jeremy. Like maybe next year the Lions will be sitting at 27 like the San Francisco 49ers, and then they'll trade back 3 picks, and then they'll trade back another 3 picks into the second round and pick up a bunch of extra draft capital.
My dream first round.
But I think that, again, it's being described as this like meat and potatoes, solid draft. You're getting out of it what you need. And I think that is being falsely attributed with a B because people assume that's a B class, right? It's solid. It's solid. I think that there's room for more than it being just solid. So like I'm very fringe, like B plus, maybe A minus, as far as how I would grade the entire class just from, especially from reviewing it with you guys. Even though you might not see Rolder as being the will linebacker replacement in 2026, maybe you squint and see it in 2027, but there's guys who are going to be contributors to this team. There's Blake Miller. He's going to hopefully be your starting right tackle, right?
You can say it. He's going to be the starting right tackle. It's fine.
I'm not going to say it because I want to show respect to Larry Borum, and Brad Holmes loves Larry Borum at right tackle. So I'm going to give him at least the opening at the gate. He's the favorite, but maybe once the gate opens, it changes in a hurry. But Blake Miller's going to be a contributor to this football team. Derek Moore is going to be a contributor to this football team. Even if DJ Wanham is the guy on first and second down, and Moore is a sub package guy on third down, that was worth the second round pick. Was it worth the trade up? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that'll come into play year 2. Like, is Wanham needed? Is a guy going to be needed on first and second down? But like, Abney has the upside. Kendrick Law has upside. I think that there's enough upside and there's enough like sure things in this draft class for me to ultimately give it, like I said, a B plus. Maybe like the ceiling of it is an A minus.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. I think especially when you take a look at the players that I look at, where it's like, okay, these are the players that you expect to contribute highly. And I think it is those first like 4 or 5 picks when you talk about Blake Miller, Derek Moore, Jimmy Rolder, Keith Abney, and Kendrick Law. Like those guys, if you can look at those 5 guys and be like, okay, what is the expectation for those? You have a starter, 2 guys that will likely challenge to start in Abney and Derek Moore, and then you might have 2 key special teamers in both Law and Rolder. And if that's what you got, like that to me is a nice draft. It's not just like run of the mill B. Like that is kind of A minus type tier type of draft class, because the guys that you are like that you would look at in the rounds 6 and 7, like that's where you are supposed to gamble. That is where you're supposed to take, projects and guys that you're trying to see like, hey, can we get something out of these guys? And I think that's another reason why I think so highly of this class is that Brad did that in the rounds that he should have. I think, it's TBD on Rolder, but I think like to Ryan's point, I think you can squint, and it's not like you're squinting really, really hard, but like there's a world where that is your starting will linebacker next to Jack Campbell. If he continues to develop, if he continues to refine his game, and you look at the things that he's already being praised for. Yeah. Like and you look at the things that they are touting about him in terms of his instincts being really good, he has good athleticism. Like you start to coach that player up, then maybe that is somebody that you can kind of trust next to Jack Campbell. And who knows, if Jack Campbell continues to progress at the rate that he is, maybe he starts having the Penei Sewell effect on the linebacker that plays next to him. Like there's always a world where I think that pick could like kind of work out. So I'm right there with you, Ryan, where like I look at this class and I walk away much happier with it. Sure, the Keontae Scott thing is going to like haunt me for a little while, but you know what? When the Lions bounce the Bucs from the playoffs again, I'll be happy. I'll be fine.
And I think the proper context here too is you have to consider the draft capital that they went into the weekend with. It wasn't a lot. So if they can get a starting right tackle for the next 10 years, a guy who will eventually start opposite Aiden Hutchinson and will immediately at least give you 20 to 30 snaps a game this year, maybe your future starting nickel, and then 2 special teamers and Rolder and the receiver, that's a lot for a draft where you didn't have a 3rd round pick, where you were picking in the back half of most rounds. Now, was it the Lions' fault that they didn't have a 3rd round pick? Yes. But if you're just talking about the draft class as they picked this weekend, I think you can see the path to where this turns out to be a pretty solid class.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with that said, guys, that's pretty much our thoughts on this draft class. Like always, if you want to leave a comment or if you want to leave your reaction to this draft class, you can always do that. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you can actually do it on the episode of this podcast. If you're watching this, though, on YouTube or even on Twitch, you can always leave a comment on the live stream and kind of give us your feedback on this draft class as well. I kind of said this earlier when talking to Eric, but this has been a really busy weekend for our entire staff in terms of so much content being put out about all of these prospects. So if there are things that you were expecting to hear that you didn't hear, there's a good chance that it might be written about over on the website. So this is a great time to go over to prideofdetroit.com, support all of the great content that was put out by both Jeremy, Eric. I know Brandon was writing a number of things. Ryan apparently graded a pick. So like definitely go out there and check out those things and definitely show some support to the website. And like always, if you are looking for any more video content, you can do that by going over and subscribing to the Pride of Detroit YouTube channel at youtube.com/Pride of Detroit. Or again, tune in and watch us on any of our live streams at twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit as well. So with all of that said, I'm Miko. He's Jeremy. He's Ryan. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch and listen. And we will see you guys in the next one.
Boop. Whoa. Why are you the big picture? How'd that happen?
Whoa.
Whoa, what happened? What happened? What happened?
Is everyone
everywhere.
seeing it that way? Where the person talking is the main picture?
Mm-hmm.
How do I
I'm
change
seeing
that?
it that way.
Mm-hmm.
How do I change that back? Why is it like that? Why is it like this?
What did you do, Jeremy?
How do I change? It's not here. I didn't break anything. Are you pinned? You're not pinned. I don't think you are. Now I'm pinned. What if I unpin? I can't just unpin? What's happening? It's not Zoom. I know how to do it with Zoom. This is Riverside. I'm not as familiar with Riverside. What speaker view? On your screen, am I like the main thing, or is it 3 boxes for you?
I see 3 boxes on mine.
I see 3 boxes, but anytime someone talks, they move to the big box.
This is what it looks like. Where? What the heck? Glad I didn't do this in the middle of the show. I'm not talking to you, Chad. I was talking to you.
Liam, I hope the
Oh.
beat writer combine doesn't involve a tech section.
Who did you press anything?
I did.
Was it your fault the entire
So
time?
I changed. I didn't touch anything, so I still think it was your fault. But
I didn't
fixed
touch
it,
anything
so
either.
I get the credit for that.
How did you fix it?
That can't be proved.
If you
I just
fixed
changed
it,
the layout.
it was clearly your fault because you're the one running the show here.
That's not how it works, Jeremy. You're the one that's sharing your screen on the stream, so it's your fault. Anything that I did to fix it is my credit.
Well, okay. What did you do? Because I want to see if I even had the capabilities to do it.
I just changed the layout.
What does that mean? What did you press? Where did you click?
I click layout.
Okay, so yeah, you were the only one that had the ability to do this because there's nowhere where it says layout on my screen.
Yeah, but I didn't touch anything. I ended the stream.
And then you accidentally hit layout, and then you changed the layout.
No, because you actually have to click layout and then click a new layout. So that's 2 clicks, and I didn't click anything. So always trying to blame the black man.
Okay.
Time to shut it down.
That is uncalled for,
Uncalled
Miko.
for.
Just because I pulled the race card on you doesn't mean you get to throw it back at me.
I think that's exactly what that means.
Is that you pulling the race card again?
I don't know.
By saying you can't use the race card? Is that you using the
I'm
race card?
definitely like, I barely know what the term means, but I'm pretty sure I'm getting gaslit right now. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
I don't know if that's it. I don't know if
I don't know,
anything's it. I know the Pistons playing 40 minutes.
Yeah. Time to drive home, get dinner on the way home.
Yeah.
I do have some alerts to get through. I'm going to get through them a lot, but there are a couple $10 donations, so I want to make sure we don't skip over them. Sundog, thank you for the 40 months subscribed on Twitch. Says made it to the big 4-0. Any wisdom, Jeremy? Hey, I'm a little over a week in, and things have been going okay. Played a couple good rounds of disc golf, and then oh man, I don't want to be the guy that talks about his round of disc golf, but I'm going to for a second here. I was -3 through 14 holes, which in Rolling Hills, if anyone who knows what I'm talking about, my personal best is +1 on that course. And then I went double bogey, bogey, and finished +2. I was
You started feeling
devastated.
yourself. You gotta treat it like a no-hitter. Like you just don't even act like it happened.
I was so I was thinking about finishing under par before that, and I hit this nice birdie putt to move to -3. 14 is the toughest hole, and that hole's already in my head, and for me to be -3 at that point, I'm like, maybe I built up enough where I can screw up this hole and be okay. Then I screwed up that hole and the next hole, and it was brutal. Anyways,
I love how anybody could tune into this stream right now and just assume that you were talking about regular golf. You'd be
Yes,
like, man,
right?
Jeremy's when did Jeremy become
Nope.
such an avid golfer?
Nope.
And it's like, no, this is disc golf.
Anyways, HSW, thank you for the 15 months subscribed on Twitch, says, thank the Lord, the draft is over. We are free. I've never felt a comment more than that, HSW. And Rerun, thank you for the $10 super chat on YouTube, says, can we talk about the Tesla trade? Now, 2 of the 3 third picks from this year's last lackluster draft. This makes me think Holmes' vision on the draft is 2020. Yeah, he kind of mentioned that. When someone had asked him, why did you just not trade into the third? Why were you why'd you just decide to not phone it in? That's That's a mean way of putting it. Let me
pack it up, basically.
Yeah. So why didn't the team trade back into the third? And he says, quote, no, it kind of felt like how we thought it would, and we felt confident. That was kind of my sense when we made the TSLAW trade as well, just kind of seeing how things had been going the past couple of years. I know that this is the part there where I don't know what he's talking about. He says, I know that number is a popular number, that numerical figure, but I had no qualms about not having those third-round picks.
Like having the top
Is he talking
100
about, like,
picks?
Yeah.
Top what?
He's like top 100 picks.
Maybe. Was that part of the question? I don't remember if that was part of the question or not.
I don't remember if it was part of the question, but I wonder if he's like, well, that's
Maybe.
a really arbitrary number, like top 100 kind of thing.
It might
Or
have been
even
what
just,
Chad
like,
is saying
top-
too, a third-round pick, just like the third
Yeah,
round.
well, because like that was something that I started asking even leading into the draft. Is like, how much do we even think that the Lions care about having a third round pick? And I think it's so easy. Like I said, it's the reason I don't really like that answer, because it's easy to say that in a press conference, and then like if one of these third round picks pops off, it's like, so you didn't like that guy?
Yeah. Right. Well, and I think what he's trying to say there is like, these are really shallow draft class. We kind of only like the first 2 rounds and maybe a little bit into the third, which is why we made the TSLAW trade, because we thought that year's class was running out of talent. Let's go jump into the top of the third, get in and get out. But if you're saying that, like, how are we supposed to believe in your fourth to seventh round picks? What do you actually think about those players? What do you actually think of Jimmy Rolder? If you're like, yeah, this is trash class, we don't like anyone beyond the third round.
Right. I mean, because like again, obviously, if you don't like anybody in the third round, like I'm not saying trade up, then yeah, don't trade up into the third round. But like, if you have a third round pick, why are you giving away future third round picks to go up higher in the like? I don't quite understand it when it's just like,
yeah, I really would like to ask Brad and like, because I think this might be tied into the no trade down things too, where it's just like, I think he thinks, and maybe he's right, maybe he's not, that NIL has ruined the middle class of every draft. Like everything
question to ask.
from third round and beyond. I think he doesn't value those picks as much anymore. And so he's willing to and like we were saying earlier, like at some point that's going to catch up with the draft classes, right? At some point you're just going to have so many 4th and 5th year players that have to declare, and suddenly the draft will be deeper again. But
does that mean that those players are necessarily great? You know what I mean? Like you've stuck around in college for that long, so like that's the other side of that coin, right? Is like which we talked about with the like overage players, right?
Yeah. Are they just dominating because they're 24-year-olds going up against 21-year-olds, or you have to take it kind of case by case. But I do wonder if like he's just like, I'd rather just get my 2 starters in the 1st and 2nd round and then add a bunch of role players after that in the 5th to 7th round. It kind of feels like that's where he's at right now. And again, I can't say that's a good or bad strategy, because we're in just like such a unique era of college football that it's uncharted territory. The draft classes are way different than they have been in the past, but it's weird. It's weird. It was weird that he gave up on day 2. I'd never seen anything like that. And it's weird that he doesn't trade down. And it's weird that he's trading 3/3 for a developmental wide receiver. But
especially
there might be a method to the madness.
Yeah, but especially that like the day ended early for them, and then what did you guys think of Philadelphia? Like trading for Jonathan Grenard.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
I mean, they traded pick 98, which is at the very end of the third round, and a 2027 third round pick in exchange for, I think they got a 7th and they got Grenard, and it's like that's more. I mean, like that's like
a TSLAW trade.
Philly does it. Philly does that a lot though. Like they are willing to those third round picks. They're like, whatever, we'll move them. I mean, is that what they moved for Phillips the year before, at the trade deadline?
I think it was a 3rd.
And is that them saying, okay, like we can trade for this player, and maybe we can play the comp pick game with that, where like, pick 98 was a comp pick.
Sure.
And yeah, the Dolphins received a 2026 third round pick in the deal. So that's what they traded to get Phillips. And now they've traded 2 more third round picks to get another edge rusher. Like,
as Chad's pointing out, they spent a third for Carlton Davis here in Detroit. Za'Darius was a 5th? Is that right?
5th or 4th?
I think it was like a 5th and they got back a 7th or something.
I think it was a 5th. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm trying not to do the thing where you're just like, man, if the Lions had that pick, who could they have picked instead?
The third round,
like-
It was a 5th,
I think
by the way.
the only
You guys were
thing,
right.
I think the only thing the line should like immediately regret, and it's not even that big of a deal to me because again, tight end isn't that big of a need this year, but it is in next year. I think that third round run on tight ends, kind of a bummer that you missed out on that.
That third round run on tight ends, and the Bears took one of the ones that a lot of Lions fans liked in
Yeah.
Sam Roush.
I don't know. I more so look at the fact that like you would have had pick 81, and you could have just taken Jayshon Barham.
Yeah, but now they went to the Cowboys. It's just Taco Charlton Part 2.
Oh, that's a deep cut.
But it's just like, yeah, I don't know. Once the POD fiscal year restarts, we need to figure out how much it's going to cost to get a Brad Holmes interview, since we
True.
need to stock back up from the Petsing one. So
Use your Twitch Prime sub so that we can afford a Brad Holmes interview, or buy Righteous Felon. Last chance, chat.
yeah, we probably
POD
should wrap this up so I can get this edited and get it uploaded so that people can actually
POD Draft 26. Is that right?
draft POD 26. See, you about to have people not even be able to get the savings they want.
That's why I asked, Miko. Two more. Few more alerts. Sorry. Keith Smith, $10 super chat as well, says, I love the low ceiling BS call out. I follow the draft, and one thing that frustrates me is how an analyst and many GMs confuse high floor with low ceiling. Give me the good football player. Yeah. You can, you
Yeah,
can be high
it
floor and
almost
high
seems
ceiling.
like it almost seems like if you say high floor, they have to be a low ceiling player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
Like
silly.
I rarely hear people talked about like as a high floor, high ceiling player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at that point in time, aren't they just like a good football player? Like on
Right,
that
I guess.
Yeah.
You're just an elite player.
This guy's just going to be great. Panay Sewell, high floor, high ceiling.
But thanks for the $10, Keith. RGA 26 bits says, who do you think Brad was referring to talking traits over non-football players in the 6th and 7th round? Talking traits. I'm trying to remember that quote. I don't think I remember that. Okay, I found the quote. It says, on how thin the group of players that get labeled. Okay, so first of all, there was a conflating of the question with Brad Holmes. Will Birchfield is the one who asked the question. I think he was asking, okay, you draft football players. What percentage of a draft class are those football players, those gritty football players? And Brad heard the question as, how many of the players you draft are football players? So he was like, oh, most of them, all of them. So he said, that's a good question. I haven't really done the math, and I would say that the majority of them we do. Or I would say along the way, this guy's a football player. There are really not many guys drafted that we don't think are good football players. But once you hit the 6th and 7th round, you might take a shot on maybe some higher traits or something like that. I had a lot of conviction on these guys all year. So what RGA is asking is, what 6th or 7th round pick that the Lions have taken is not a football player? And I don't know if he was referring to anyone in particular. But I don't know. I'm trying to... Let me look at their draft history really quick.
James Houston.
Didn't he just have like 8 sacks this season?
Did he have that much with the Cowboys? But I think you could maybe make the argument he's more of a traits guy than a football player, but he also had a pretty rough route to getting to the NFL. Took a lot of perseverance.
He had 5.5 sacks. He also had 6 tackles for loss. 13 quarterback hits. James Houston.
I don't want to guess. I don't want to guess this game. You're asking me to call out current or former Lions players based on football characteristics that I'm not really privy to. You don't need to apologize. I don't know. I don't know that he was necessarily referring to anybody. I think he was just saying, like, once you get that far down the draft, you lower your standard everywhere, probably, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what we were talking about earlier, where it's like you get to the 6th, 7th round, maybe even if you're like drafting at the bottom of the 5th round, where it's just like, do they have, I think Brad had said this before, like, do they have a special skill set? Do they have something that they do really well?
Right.
And can we like build off of that?
Yes. I think that makes sense. Uncle Indigo, thank you for the 54 months. Good to see you, buddy. Arnick, thank you for the 53 months. Appreciate you. Indigo, thank you for the 1 bit, says Big Spender. And E-Man, 58, thank you for the follow. We're caught up. We're done. Chat, thanks for hanging out for our 3-hour show. Dang, we went long. Which I guess should not be expected of a draft show. Hope you guys liked it. We're going to have a ton of draft content coming. We're going to have first bites coming. If you're a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, which we'll talk to some college beat writers who covered some of the Lions draft picks over the past few years. One of my favorite things we do all year. Really good, fun content. So make sure you're a Pride of Detroit subscriber. If you're not already, go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe to become a subscriber. Midweek mailbag will probably happen this week, but I haven't talked about it with Eric because we're both exhausted. Anything else, fellas, before we get out of here? Go Pistons.
If you haven't watched the interview I did with Eric earlier, definitely go check that out over on the YouTube channel.
I haven't watched that yet. I'm excited about it. Probably throw it on the website tomorrow as well. Ryan?
And go
Nuggies?
Pistons.
We can officially start talking about Nuggies.
It's Nugget season! And up-down season, which I'm a little less excited about.
Running season.
Which I'm not excited about.
I'm trying to go on a health kick for May, so that might be when I have to do the up-downs.
Yeah, I'm trying to go on a health kick too, so
Got to eat the 100 nuggets.
You're gonna need
How
one
much
after.
do you-
You're gonna need one after the 100 nuggets.
how many grams of protein in
That's not the question you need to ask.
McDonald's?
You need to ask is how much fat.
How much fat? How many
100
calories?
nuggets.
Sodium.
25 grams in 10 pieces. So 250 grams of protein.
You're hitting that goal at least.
I have to counterbalance that with fiber. Like what are we
Water and fiber, yeah. Just
how much
liquid fiber.
protein is too much protein?
you're about to hit it.
I'm about to find out, aren't I? Okay, cool.
All right, y'all. We'll see you for the midweek mailbag later in the week. You guys have a great rest of your evening, and yeah, go Pistons. Go Stones.